Okay, it's 6 PM, and I'll call the Londonderry Planning Board meeting to order for March 23rd, 2026. This is a special meeting just to discuss amendments to our PUD, Planned Unit Development. Ryan is here. I'll appoint Ryan to vote for John. That gives us 6 voting members, it's a quorum, and we could proceed. I'll just ask everyone to please rise, we'll pledge allegiance to the American flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Go ahead, myself there. Okay, so the discussion today is only the PUD and the proposed amendments that the planning board has made. We've been a while at this. Most of the board is fairly familiar. Have you received any input from the planning board members who are not here tonight, Kelly?
Not outside of the work sessions, no, I haven't.
You don't have anything?
Correct.
So it's really just the 6 of us making the decision. So, and also, if there's any substantive changes to this, there has to be another hearing by statute. So I'll turn this over to Kelly, and we'll proceed.
So can I just clarify one procedural matter? So Art, you're going to chair the meeting.
Yes.
Do you have a vice chair that you want to designate? Or,
Designate Tony. He's assistant secretary. I'm secretary. We go down through the chain of command. That's how the state operates also. So.
perfect. And 6 voting members, do I have it right?
Yes, 6 voting members.
All right. So, as you pointed out, this is the public hearing for section 5.2 of our zoning ordinance, which is the planned unit development ordinance. This board has had 3 work sessions on this item in October, November, and February. Just as a reminder as to how we got here, this was a directive from the town council to amend this ordinance. And so with that, staff did some initial research utilizing professional outlets in the industry, such as the American Planning Association, the New Hampshire state statutes that allow for this type of ordinance, and then some of our peer communities who have their own planned unit development ordinances. So that's the short of how we got here. Like I say, we've had 3 work sessions at this board, which in my opinion have gone well. They've provided a lot of feedback, which I hope I've incorporated in this draft that you guys have before you. So tonight, from a procedural standpoint, the goal is for this board to make a recommendation to the town council. That recommendation being to move this draft ordinance to the town council so that the town council can then follow their process as the jurisdictional body to amend ordinances, adopt ordinances, remove ordinances. That is the body that has the authority to do such things. So again, goal tonight for the planning board is to make a recommendation to move this to the town council. From there, the town council would hold a first reading in their own public hearing. That is the statutory process and the process per our town of Londonderry regulations. So with that, I'll pull up the draft ordinance. And I'll take any feedback, questions that you have for me.
Okay, any board member wants to make any changes, anything substantial has to go through the whole process again, so that will slow things down. I think the town council is looking for haste on this.
Start that way.
I got nothing.
Start that way.
I got nothing.
Do you want to start at this end?
Yeah, start at that end.
Jonathan?
I got nothing.
Okay, Ryan?
I don't have anything.
Sean?
I'm good.
Tony?
I might have a couple.
Okay, I'll go to Ann, just,
Yeah.
you have anything, Ann?
I'll go after after him.
Oh, okay, you gotta
She got a
correct
whole
Tony.
stack. She got a stack over there. You got a stack. All right, so, Mr. Chair, I have on page 4, 5.2.4, it's H, number 2. The paragraph doesn't make sense. I think it was a cut and paste error. You can, if you read it enough times, you can figure out what that paragraph is trying to do, but the words are not correct.
It's a little awkward.
It is.
Be polite to it.
It is, so I'd like to see if we can work that out.
It's in a grammatical nature, so that's not anything substantial.
Can I just read it so I make sure I'm following you?
Yes,
So it,
Yes.
under section H, compliance in expiration, number 2, the PUD master plan shall include a phasing plan that clearly identifies the sequence of residential and non-residential development. Unless otherwise approved by the planning board based on specific findings, a substantial portion of the approved commercial component shall reach active and substantial development prior to commencement of standalone commercial development that is not clearly neighborhood serving or integral to the initial residential phases. So I think that last, after standalone, I think that should say, residential, not commercial, because it doesn't make any sense the way.
yeah, I would agree, because I remember the discussion on that particular item. I might have led it, I can't remember that part, but I remember the discussion that the concept was that we wanted to make sure that the phasing was not in favor of, that the developer couldn't decide which way they wanted to phase it, commercial, industrial, residential, or whatever. We wanted to make sure that, for example, in my phraseology, and it's probably wrong, but to me, the commercial build-out part of any of these projects is clean money, free money, right? You don't have kids in the school, you have hardly any police presence, and when's the last time one caught on fire? 2022 is the correct answer. So the fact is, that's what this paragraph was trying to do. And again, I think it was a cut and paste issue more than it was a conceptual one. And so I'd like us to try and get that language to elucidate what I just said, if I made sense at all, and if you all agree.
Tony, can I ask you where you were? in
Yep,
all this?
it's page 4 on the PUD.
Letter H, number 2.
H number 2. Yep, 5, this is the old one. Where's the new one? Let me see this. Let me see if we can get this.
That's the right one.
Oh, here it is, right here. Yep, see, you had it underlined also.
That's the new one? What? Did you say H or
H.
A?
H. Want to use this one?
Yep.
Okay,
That's
So here's-
November at least.
yeah, so here's H, right? This looks different too. Make sure you're looking at the right one. Nope, that's not it.
Oh, you got March.
You got a different one?
It's on the computer.
I don't think you have the newest one. Thank you.
Try this one.
Still page 4.
Gotta be.
This might be it.
It should say today's date at the top.
March 23. Good start. Yep, one more. Oh, you printed on 2 sides, that's what makes it cumbersome. That one,
Okay.
number 2.
Tony, so just change your commercial to residential is not gonna work.
Correct.
Yeah,
We're all
rephrase
set
that whole-
with that? Tony's changes?
Well, then it's gotta be
Not yet.
restructured.
Not yet.
Oh,
All right.
Maybe you could read your entire recommended words.
So I would leave out the back part, and I would say the PUD master plan shall include a phasing plan that clearly identifies the sequence of residential and non-residential development. Unless otherwise approved by the planning board based on specific findings, a substantial portion of the approved commercial component shall reach active and substantial development prior to the start of the residential development. In other words, we don't want what's happened in surrounding towns. And by the way, tonight, we are not allowed to talk about any projects in the town of Londonderry, and it's not proper to talk about other towns. I've been yelled at several times for doing that. I'm gonna try and not do it tonight. So I'm gonna just say in general, in surrounding towns, the developer built all the residential stuff, which is the most expensive stuff for the town, and then went back to the town and said, oops, commercial's not selling right now, so we wanna put up another 120 unit residential building. And so that creates a problem on its own. And that's what that paragraph was trying to do. I think I did it in what I just said, but wordsmithing is not one of my fortes. So if anyone needs to help that out, please do.
Well, yeah, what if we just took out prior to commencement, and then we take out everything, and then initial residential phases? I'm just saying, if we just subtract words, we're fine, right? Or
Yeah,
no?
yeah.
I think even Tony's rephrasing is okay, because it goes according to the intent of what we've already done and discussed.
Yes.
The rephrasing is fine, because it's still, I mean, it's clear this draft was, one word was off. But like you said, the intent is clear.
Yeah,
And
it's-
the intent is remaining with your proposed,
Yeah, the intent was to make sure that the commercial part is developed or substantially developed before they start the residential phases.
what
That
would
was what
warrant,
we were
like,
trying to
what
do.
would warrant this as a significant or substantive change is if you took out, it needs to have active and substantial development, something like that.
Okay.
But that's not what you're talking about. You're talking about making it clear that this is focused on ensuring there's a commercial component that's active and substantial prior to residential starting, or that's how I'm interpreting what you're saying.
Yeah, prior to the start of residential development.
Hmm?
I mean, make it clean, right?
Right, I think it's
We
a
good?
definite clarification I think of what our intent was.
Anna, you caught up?
Yes,
Are you with us?
Yep.
You understand what I'm trying to do?
yes, I do.
Okay.
You got that verbiage, Kelly?
Yep.
Okay.
Do we need to just have a consensus on that change, or what do you want to do?
I heard a consensus, but
Yeah, there is a consensus.
set?
Yeah.
Okay.
I haven't got any objections from the board.
I'm gonna yield on my second one. So I'm done.
For the moment.
Yep, for the moment, until I hear from the public.
Okay, Ian,
Ann, you're up.
Oh, I have a question. Could I get a visual of something? Oh, sorry. There we go. Can I get a visual of something? A new PUD, after this is passed, coming before the board, and it's, the perimeter is abutting a typical residential property with one house, 1 acre. When we, if the development that's come in can allow 7 units in 1 acre, is that a possibility?
Make sure I got,
Up to, that's the upper limit, definitely.
Okay,
I'm not sure I'm clear on what you're asking me. Are you asking me what the PUD drafted permits per acre?
yeah,
6 units per acre is the base,
plus a bonus if you,
and then depending on, this table, it affords for different, specifically for affordable housing, in that definition, it allows for a 10 to 15% bonus for that specific category.
okay, 6 plus the bonus?
Possibly.
Possibly.
Okay,
Potentially, yeah.
But there's also, the board put a cap of maxing it to 7.5 per acre. I think that's what the 7 number you're asking me about.
okay, and now,
So just to be, because I think it can be confusing, so somebody comes in with a planned unit development, they're not taking advantage of any of the, this table, that community benefit, additional allowances specifically for the affordable housing, where it says 10 to 15% additional density for that category. They're not taking advantage of that, they're not proposing that.
okay,
They're held to 6 units per acre. If they are taking the affordable housing approach and trying for that 10 to 15%, the board put a cap so that it can't exceed 7.5 dwelling units per acre, should they choose to do that. Go ahead.
Tony?
can I ask a question before she goes
Yes.
off on something else?
No, because I'm gonna clarify what you
Okay.
just said. Is that
Go
okay?
ahead.
So, in a PUD, if you try and separate out one component, you're collapsing the whole PUD. You can't, it's not, it is, but it isn't. Technically, it's 6 units per acre, but understand that the lot lines, PUD, depending on what the agreement is between the town and the owner, remember, we're talking about, in this version, we're talking about 100 acres or more, right? So it's not gonna be somebody with 1 acre of land that can put up a 6-unit building.
Right, I understand
And when you do the
that.
PUD, many times the lot lines disappear. So that 6-unit building could actually be on a 6-acre lot by the time all the other requirements have to fit in. So the baseline, right, the cost of doing business is you can get 6. Now, try and get those 6 in there with the setbacks and the green space and all that stuff, and you're gonna find out that it's probably not gonna work if you had that, if you kept the 1 acre lot lines. It's not gonna fit. It won't work. Does that make sense?
Well, I'm just thinking 6 is part of a larger whole, and how it would abut in AR1 zone that currently exists now. And say, I can't use an example, right? Okay,
Nothing that exists in
No,
town.
and to be clear on that is because if you name a piece, those people weren't noticed that their parcel was gonna be talked about.
okay, I'll
Right?
just,
And so that makes it, so
Okay.
do a pretend.
if it abuts housing on the rear, that part of a development, existing development, and the property that these 6 houses are gonna be on are part of a larger part of the PUD. Will there be any different setbacks for these houses as compared to what exists now in the PUD? Because I see the PUD I can't talk about the current PUD, can I?
You can talk about what's in here, in this draft,
And the current ordinance.
and the current ordinance.
So I think,
Okay.
so
The
right
current
now,
ordinance has on some areas, 1 acre minimums or lot lines similar or the same for
so
each
right now it
house.
has in the draft that all roads and principal structures shall be set back a minimum of 50 feet from the external boundaries of the PUD tract where it abuts existing residential uses unless a reduced setback is approved by the planning board to facilitate access or integration of compatible uses. And then the second piece to this section about setbacks talks about landscaping, open space, and screening shall be used to provide a reasonable buffer between the PUD and adjoining properties, except where adjoining uses are compatible or integration is desirable. So two things that I'll comment about that. So there's a 50-foot buffer required. And then it elaborates further as to essentially what that buffer should be. I think some of the details that you're getting into are when the board is looking at that specific
Site plan.
site plan or, yeah, thank you, site plan, where you have that, you still have that degree of flexibility to impose an additional buffer depending on where it is. Because right now, this is a base ordinance to get a developer the criteria to compose their PUD master plan, and then the board sees the PUD master plan for that specific site and has the flexibility to say, actually, hey, this is 100 acres and this area abuts, 2-acre subdivision and it's AR1 and we think it should have an additional buffer because of that. The board has the flexibility to do that.
And that has been done, correct?
It has been done.
And, right.
So I think that's kind of what you're getting at,
Yeah.
your question, the root of your question, but I'm interpreting what you're saying, so.
Okay. Can I say, I know the town, the people in the town, can I say,
It's-
before
it's-
we
it's
had
really
this,
hard. I know it's hard.
PUD
I know, because I get in trouble all the time. I know what you're going through.
see, the other one had pictures. We knew exactly what they were talking about, and it's hard to,
Well, you're talking about the PUD master plan. That's entirely different from what we're talking about.
but
We're
it's,
talking about the ordinance.
The ordinance itself, the master plan is a whole nother
but
thing.
it's what the
So-
ordinance is what it allows.
No, but the ordinance, you okay?
Yes.
So the ordinance is step one for a developer. It's only step one. And then the staff gets a hold of it, and then the public hearings and the this and the that, and then a self-contained master plan of that 100 acres is made. And that's when the conversation starts. And even then, once things start to want to be built, it comes back again here for site plan and site plan review, at which time this board gets another crack at it. So you're talking about 4 instances where between the planning board and the town council and another 4 or more from the staff get a crack at it. See what I'm saying? So this is just a basic template. It's like your admission ticket
This,
to
yeah,
be able to apply.
I was gonna say, this is the key to open the door.
Yes.
This is the key to let somebody open the door, then they provide you with what their proposal is. And this board still has the opportunity to go through and decide whether or not you want to issue certain components that are waived or an alternative. That process happens once you receive the proposed master plan document, which is for a specific area. So you have the detail that you need as a board to comment.
I need to stop you right there, so that there's no confusion. The master plan for that development.
Yeah,
Not
you.
Jeff's master plan.
I know.
Not the
Yeah,
town's,
yeah,
not
not
the
the
town's
town.
master plan. This
Yeah.
is a master plan for that 100-acre wood.
So just to elaborate more on your point, Tony, about having more opportunities to review and comment, that's why the board, through our work sessions, added in, don't ask me to find exactly where it is in the draft, but you added in the requirement to have more conceptual discussions with the board, more public hearings, more community outreach from the developer. That's why the board recommended those changes, because as it sits now, the present ordinance, the applicant is only required to have one conceptual discussion with this board and then a pre-app meeting with staff.
We changed the word from to at least
Yeah.
one. And that allowed us to be able to say we need another one. That's how we changed the wording on that particular item.
Because the two that we have, we've had a number of iterations before it really got into the master plan, master planning effort, which for Woodmont took 3 years.
Go!
Pardon me. Anyone else have any comments on,
Yeah, and you got more?
Too hard to ask a question here
It is hard.
in this group.
I
No,
understand.
It also says, well, it doesn't say, maybe, but with more housing comes more infrastructure. Is that going to change the relationship of cost for the town?
I'm not sure what you mean.
Well, with more housing per acre, there's gonna be more sewer lines, water lines, and everything else. I know water's probably Kennechuck or something like that, but the sewage that the town pays, do we recoup that from developments?
So typically, any of that sewer and is privately owned in these
Oh,
PUDs?
in the development? Oh,
Yep.
okay,
And again, but the residents still get paid, still get billed for usage.
okay.
But-
Thank you.
yes, Tony?
And then to further answer that, 5.2.9A, number 4, is a catch-all that was put in that says adequacy of public infrastructure and services to accommodate the proposed development, including water, sewer, roads, drainage, emergency services, and schools. And that catch-all was put in there so that the staff and board, for the benefit of the community, had an option to tell the developer, okay, well, you're doing all that, but the school's gonna need, you're putting in 30,000 houses. That is not for print, because nobody's doing that. But we're gonna need 11 more school buses, and you all are on the hook for that.
Okay.
And that's the catch-all, 5.2.9, general considerations. That catch-all number 4 was put there specifically for that reason, so that we could catch those things and capture some of those dollars for the taxpayers, so that they don't have to be responsible for all of it. Now, in real life, as John can tell us, it sometimes turns into a tug of war, and maybe that's why sometimes people come here for discussion and they never come back. Or it takes them 2 years to come back, or it takes them 5 years to come back, and maybe that's why. I don't know that to be true, but if you're good at connecting dots, that might be where you come back to.
Okay.
You,
Did you want to ask one of yours now in the meeting?
I'm all done.
Oh, you are?
Yeah.
I thought you had a whole list.
get the floor.
You're the last one standing.
Mr. Chair, can I ask a question?
Yes.
So in the piece, just because we were on that other piece there of substantial commercial versus residential, what happens if a project is part of a PUD, but it crosses over into a different town, how does that,
It's not,
huh? Would that be
Sorry.
treated separately? Like our PUD would be on our side and their
they,
PUD
they
would be?
need to meet the regulations of 100 contiguous acres in the town of Londonderry in the terms of the ordinance that's in effect for a PUD at that time. It doesn't matter what they're doing in another town.
So if
It's
they,
not Londonderry, so our regulations don't apply to another town, just like the other town's regulations specific to a PUD don't apply to Londonderry. They have to follow our standard.
I'm just saying, so let's say across town and they do a substantial part of business on that side, and it has to be on our side. Because we
Right,
don't even care
because
about their PUD, it's just.
as far
yeah, so,
as-
and it's
Right.
even, and it's even worse than that for the developer, because if they own 100 acres, but 20 of them are in a different town, 20 acres are in Plastow, 80 acres are in Londonderry, they don't qualify,
Yeah,
because they don't have 100 acres in
Contiguous.
Londonderry.
because
And-
this, sorry, I just
And then
want to
it
make
gets
clear.
Yeah, and then it gets even more complicated, because if they have 120 acres, and so they can apply for the PUD in Londonderry. If they put all the commercial in the 20 acres in Plastow, and they want to put all housing in here, they haven't met the requirements of the PUD, so they can't do it.
Okay, I just
Be-
wanted to make sure
because-
that covered it, yeah.
And because, so some regulations, right, federal, state, certain local apply to multiple towns. But in this instance, we're talking about the local zoning ordinance, which is applicable to Londonderry. So that is what that's where this ordinance lives, and that's how it's applied.
And again, this is only, once it's approved, it's only for future projects.
Correct, it's for future projects, whatever the
And-
date of this adoption is.
And town council is the one that's approving it, and we'll have a public hearing as well.
Yeah, they'll go through their, two readings. Usually the first reading is introduced, and the second reading is the public comment part of it. Okay, Ann?
If you say we have an existing PUD, and they'd love to do something that is allowed in this new PUD ordinance, can they do it? Can they request it?
An
use-
existing, so an already approved PUD?
Yeah.
They would have, so the process would be they would have to reopen their existing PUD master plan and amend it, which would require a trip back to this board. And at any point, anyone can come back with a site plan or an approved plan and ask for certain amendments to it for anything, but they can't just blanketly say, we want to follow this new ordinance now. Requires an amendment to their PUD master plan.
Yeah, the only way, master plan can be updated or amended is the agreement of both parties. So it's not one party, it's both parties.
Can I ask what's the feeling of the town on this?
And what?
On what?
About allowing something like that?
No, because
What do you mean?
it's legal.
What do you mean,
Damn, excuse me, don't,
It's illegal,
you didn't hear that,
the master,
please.
the PUD master plan, the PUD master plan, the PUD is a legal document. It's an agreement between the owner developer and the town. And so if the owner development comes back in 7 years and says, hey, you changed your PUD rules and we want those new rules, the answer legally is no, you're bound by that contract. Now, if they want, they can reapply, or they can go back to planning and development and engineering and go through the whole dog and pony show again, and then come to us and say, we want to get in on this new thing. But legally, I don't think they'd
It's
have a
a-
leg to stand on.
Even without getting into legalese, it's a similar concept to, we removed our elderly housing ordinance, right? But we have a bunch of elderly housing developments, as we all know. Well, if we bring back the elderly housing ordinance or we amend it, and one of those developments come forward and say, hey, we really want to do it this way that you allow it now, same process. They have to come to the board and go through a site plan amendment or potentially a whole new site plan. So that's just procedurally, that's how it works.
So they would have to get through three doors have to be unlocked. The Planning and Economic Development, Planning Board, and Town Council in order to make that change. Is that fair to
Make
say?
the change to their
To their
existing
P-
plan.
To their existing plan.
I mean, yes, for a PUD, they have to come to planning department and then planning board to
The-
amend their,
But the Town
PUD
Council is,
master plan.
yeah, the Town
If
Council
they
is the
have
one
a
that signs
development
it.
agreement, that is the town council document.
Got it.
And the
That is
development
the
agreement
agreement
was
between
d-
the town, which is the governing body, which is the council,
Which is the Town Council, right.
and the developer.
the development agreements we have is signed by the town council, as the town
Exactly.
manager.
Yeah.
It's a binding document
Okay,
legally.
you ready for public comment, or do you have more?
Yeah, excuse me, I think so right now. If I can withhold time for a question afterwards, if necessary.
Of course,
Yeah, once it
course.
comes back to the board.
of course.
So we'll take public comment, name and address, please, and it pertains to the amendments that we're proposing for the PUD ordinance.
Good evening.
Will you put the microphone up on the podium there? Looks easier. Don't have to bend over.
Hold on. Aspetta. Okay. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for doing this. I think it's great when the public has input, so thank you. My name is Deb Paul. I live at 118 Hardy Road. I'm not going to speak specifically, but I know it was late. I was having trouble emailing a document. It kept bouncing back saying something about one of the emails was out of network or something. But I sent all the planning board my thoughts and my changes. I know it was late, but I sent it to you. I have a copy of it here, if anybody wants to see it. I just would have made my life a little easier. I kept going from the original to the draft. I never saw a red line document, so I could actually just right there see what was changed, like what was taken out and what was added. So that made it a little difficult. But anyway, again, I wanted to say thank you for listening to the people who are here. I'm not going to speak here. I'll speak at the council, but if anyone wants to see this, I did email it to everybody, so everybody does have a copy.
We didn't get it.
I didn't get it.
Well, I didn't send it to, like, I was
just
having
looked.
such a hard time sending it.
Just, could I have a copy of that?
Sure. I'm sorry, Kelly.
Do you need the paper, or
No,
do you want to hold it till the end, or you good?
No, you can have
Just so I can put it in the file.
Yes, please, I was just gonna ask that. And that's all I ask, is that the document be attached to the minutes. You don't have to read it in or anything like that, but hopefully all of you got it. If you didn't get it, just,
I just looked.
Can you read it into?
it's like 5 pages, I'm not gonna read it.
Oh. I didn't realize.
But I
think
can't
the
believe
only
it
way to
didn't go
get it
through.
in is
I'm
right
sorry,
now.
Art.
The only way to get it in is right now.
She's good. She's good.
She
We have
actually
we
has
have
a
a copy
second
of it.
opportunity.
Okay.
We have a
you-
copy of it. We're good.
If you have a copy, you know,
We're
I
good.
mean, I'd be welcome to talk with my train of thought. But I think you guys did a good job addressing a lot of the issues. And I think it's good that you're asking the public, because sometimes when you step away from something or somebody outside looks at something, you catch things that we don't always see. So I think many perspectives is good.
But you have the opportunity at town council with the town
Right,
council.
right. And that's where I'm gonna, you know, and hopefully you'll take some of my suggestions. Maybe you won't, I don't know. But that was my thought. So thank you for your time, and thank you for allowing the public to come here tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for
Welcome.
coming. So, can I answer that?
Yes, Tony.
So there was, thank you, Mr. Chair, there was a summary of changes sheet that is up on the town website. I think it's the
Yeah.
bottom, the last one.
So yes, so that document that you're talking about is on the website. It was,
And that details all the
yeah,
changes from the
it was,
original.
it was originally posted in October for our first work session. And just so everyone understands, there is no red line document, because I simply started from scratch. because of the significance of the, started from scratch, meaning I started on a blank piece of paper. Because as I worked through trying to use track changes and redlining it, it was extremely confusing for me, the editor. So I just did a clean rewrite based on the research I referenced earlier, based on the council feedback, and then the board feedback throughout. So that's why there is no red line, because quite frankly, it was very messy and confusing, and the flow of this ordinance is not the same as the existing ordinance, and in my view, it's hopefully better, but I'll let the boards decide the final say on that, but there is no red line document, that's why it's not posted.
So, but the original document stayed the same.
Yep.
Except for the one in the document that's on the town website that says summary of changes, and there are 8 of them. On this
Yes,
summary
yes.
on the summary of changes
Yep.
thing, and so, and to Deb's point, when I did go through and try and use the old one and the new one, you can't do it.
It's, yeah,
Because the sentences change, the concept in each one stayed the same. Some words were added, deleted, whatever, but the concept of all of them, and trust me, I spent a bunch of hours on it. Other than the one that I found, everything was exactly as we detailed it as a board with the number of meetings that we had. So I was satisfied, except for that one that we worked out tonight before we started, so, before we started public comment, so, anyway.
Okay. Ray, you've got the floor, sir.
I just want to say happy birthday, Ray.
Oh, happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
You can apply for the elderly exemption now.
It's just another day, okay? So here we are, Ray Burson, 3 Cary Drive. Okay, so I've seen this draft just recently. I actually asked for a clarification on it, which I did not get. I think Kelly has attempted to explain that. I'm not sure I understood that. We have here a draft which, to me, maybe I'm wrong, indicates that there have been some changes in this PUD review application from the original. This would be the original, which is 1, 2, 3 pages. And now we have a draft that is multiple pages. To me, that indicates that there have been some changes. I have no idea what those changes are. Now, I've taken a look at this draft, and I don't know, it's a little hard to make a comparison, but it appears as though if it's lengthened, apparently there have been some changes made. There was somewhere along the line earlier, I thought I heard at some point that somebody thought that it'd be a good idea to change it from 100 acres to maybe 30 or 20 acres or something like that. I see nothing in this draft that indicates that. So I'm at a bit of a loss for what the purpose of this is. Is this a revision of this, which I guess was the original? I'm not sure what year that was made up in. And I think this is really important because these PUDs, which now I guess at this point anybody has 100 acres, and that can be accomplished by getting another parcel next to it and putting it together. What comes into mind is off Auburn Road that I think has been brought before you for a potential PUD. The point I'm trying to make is all of this has an impact on the town, on the taxpayers, and everybody else, including all our divisions, fire, police, schools, so forth and so on. So, and then we look at what is the benefit to the town of Londonderry. I think we should look at that. Maybe we don't, because all too often I'm hearing, particularly from the planning board, with all due respect, that when we have a public hearing, we cannot take that into account. I believe I heard that recently. Because you have to follow the RSAs. Well, I understand that too. That's important. But I want somebody to tell me that the planning board cannot take into account what the citizens say at a public hearing, because that's what I've heard.
We're not talking about what we've heard, we're talking about this amendment.
Okay, so I think I have some questions. And the first question is this: has this draft changed anything from this original one?
Yes.
What has changed?
We just answered that.
You've
just
answered
literally
that?
just answered that.
Excuse
We
me.
just answered that,
We just
Ray.
answered it.
What?
There's
What has
8
been
things
changed?
that have changed.
What? I haven't seen any changes.
Read through them.
Yeah.
So number 1, section 5.2.2 clarifies PUD objectives consistent with the council's July 2025 motion, expands focus on housing diversity, mixed-use opportunities, infrastructure efficiency, environmental protection, and economic vitality. Number 2, definitions, section 5.2.3, revised to align with APA and New Hampshire community standards. Also clarifies key terms including planned unit development, density bonus, and open space. Number 3, administration and review process, section 5.2.4, incorporates pre-application consultations, conceptual planning board discussions, and community input sessions. Also requires structured public hearings and written findings. Also implements council directive for enhanced public participation.
Excuse me, what page?
Number 4, PUD master plan and submission requirements, section 5.2.5 and section 5.2.9. Requires comprehensive master plan submission supported by a checklist adopted by the planning board. Also establishes measurable standards for land use density, open space housing, and environmental protections. Number 5, eligibility and permitted uses. Section 5.2.6 and 5.2.7 establishes tract size thresholds. Also clarifies permitted, prohibited uses, and expressly support mixed-use development where appropriate. Number 6, standards of development. Section 5.2.8 introduces a density bonus framework up to 25% above baseline, linked to community benefits, affordable housing, open space preservation, sustainable design, public amenities, and mixed-use integration. Also adds measurable criteria for building height, parking setbacks, and buffers, and requires, open that door for him, please. Also requires covenants and easements to be recorded with municipal enforcement provisions. Number 7, planning board review criteria. Expands evaluation to include fiscal impacts, infrastructure adequacy, preservation of natural and cultural resources, and public benefits. Also strengthens standards for a harmonious mix of uses and sustainable design. Number 8, interpretation, application, and fees. Section 5.2.10-5.2.12 clarifies the PUD master plan as the controlling document, establishes free-setting authority under the town council, land use fee structure. Those are also all annotated. They are on the website. I apologize for saying it so fast, but I know you all can see them because they are on the website. And so you asked for the changes, and those are the changes that were made from the actual document.
Yeah.
It's
I
more,
did-
it looks like more pages because some of them were one-word things on the original, which turned into a sentence. But it's the same thing. And we had 3 workshops. We had 3 workshops on this as well. So this is not something that we're seeing for the first time today, other than the change that I made, because originally we were in October of 2025 when we
We
started.
had a work session in October of '25, November of '25, and February of this year, and you saw a draft at each of those sessions where you provided your comments as a board.
So in my opinion, the changes strengthen the PUD on the town side and took away a bunch of the wiggle room for the developer and gave more opportunity for the planning board to mandate public sessions from the owner-developer. That's what these changes did.
And when was this,
One person's opinion.
and when was this put on the website?
I
Are
don't
they,
know, because we,
all of this, when was this put on the website?
I don't have an answer to that
At
because
least
I
10
work
days
off of.
ago.
Pardon?
At least 10 days ago.
At least 10 days
At
ago.
least. I would say more, but I'm not 100% certain, at least though, because that's a statutory requirement.
Yeah.
And it
Well,
was
look.
legally noticed as to what the changes are, not the text, the full text, but what the changes were, essentially what Tony just read. And it referred you to the website, the planning office, and the town clerk's office, because we're legally required to have this available at those locations, which we did.
Tony, what page were you reading of? That's why I wanted to ask you what you were reading.
that-
'Cause
that
I wanted
is
to follow what you were
On the-
reading.
On the town website, under today's agenda.
I don't have
There
that.
are three blue lines. I think it's the bottom one.
All you do is click on them, Ray.
I don't have my laptop here.
Some
Okay?
people do.
I-
Some of us do.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Do you want to put it up
I
here?
don't know if this helps, but I did just convert both the original document that's on the website, the old one, the original one, and the new one, and I compared them and I tracked the changes. So
Yeah.
I put it on the server if you guys want to reference it or.
Can't hear you, sir.
No, I was just saying that,
Like-
yeah, so I was just saying that I combined the documents and we can track the changes if we'd like to.
Thank you.
Combine what documents?
The original and the new one.
These here?
Yeah.
You combined them?
He's got the original ordinance, not,
Oh, I see, not the one, oh, you've never
Yeah.
seen the one
Yeah.
online?
No,
Okay.
no.
Okay, I got you.
I can,
You know, look, I'm not here to find fault. I mean, maybe some of this does make sense, okay? My point is this. This is a public hearing for the general public, okay? And for me, or someone else in the general public, to understand this as to what you're trying to accomplish is a little hard to follow. I mean, Tony has explained this. Kelly has explained this. We're trying to pay attention now to figure out what the purpose of this is.
Sure. And don't forget, you have one more crack at another public hearing, at least one more public hearing with the town council as well.
So I know, this has to go before the town
so-
council
Yeah,
for approval.
yeah.
Yes.
That's what I'm saying.
Right.
So,
Okay.
yeah, after this
But
hearing, so
you
there's
know,
gonna be,
we, the general public, are trying to understand this now,
yeah.
okay? And quite frankly, it's a little vague for me, okay? And maybe some other people. So, you know, I understand sometimes things need to be updated, need to be clarified, okay? That's all good, okay? But getting back to PUDs, which we're talking about here, what is the benefit to a PUD? Maybe we're getting off track here, but wait a minute. What is the benefit to a PUD? That's something we should be looking at
That's a
too.
good question. That's
Okay?
That's a fair
Now,
question.
if you could say PUDs are going to bring in more tax money, that's a possibility. Sometimes it doesn't work out. Because sometimes we give tax breaks to businesses because we want to make them come in, which also is not necessarily bad. But we have to be concerned what we're doing. And I think the general citizens need to be informed, and that's good. We're having this public hearing.
Sure, and I appreciate your comments, and I appreciate you taking the time to come out, and happy birthday, and understand that the town council is the one that's gonna make the decision on tax breaks, not this board. We have nothing
But
to
you
do with
folks
that.
are going to give your opinion to the town council.
Not on tax breaks.
Not on tax break. I'm talking about this PUD thing we're talking about here. They're going to listen to
We're
what
either gonna
you're...
recommend that it goes there or not. That's our job tonight.
No,
Can I just say one thing, because I don't know if you were here when I said it at the beginning.
No, I'm sorry, I got here a little
That's
late.
okay. So, just how we got here, the council voted and stated they directed the town manager to draft amendments to the planned unit development ordinance. That was the ask.
So these came, I'm sorry, go ahead.
So the council gave the town manager that direction, he handed it to me and this board. So that's the task. It was to draft amendments to the PUD ordinance. It wasn't to remove it, it wasn't to talk about removing it. It was simply to draft amendments to it and then follow the process, which is to make this board to make a recommendation back to the council. That was the task. So that's why the conversation is focused the way it is,
Yeah,
because that's what this board and staff were asked to do.
so the amendments were what Tony just spoke of.
Tony just gave
That's the
you
only amendments there
of
are.
the draft amendments.
There's nothing about changing the acreage,
It's 100 contiguous acres is how this draft is written,
just like it was originally.
which is, yes, the current ordinance also states 100 contiguous acres.
Thank you for allowing me to speak.
You're welcome. Thank you for coming.
Okay, next.
Glenn Douglas, 6 Overlook Ave. I just got a
Could
couple
you
of
speak up a
questions.
little louder, please?
Glenn Douglas, 6 Overlook Ave. It was mentioned that every time this came forward, you guys saw the draft. Has the planning board, before this meeting, read through this and said, this is what we wanted to send to a public hearing? Or did you get this after your last meeting?
We had this we had been discussing this since last October.
No, I understand that. There's a draft up here, which you're going to make a recommendation to send to the council. Was this discussed and agreed upon at your last meeting when you said, yes, we're going to have a public hearing?
Take that.
Because what I'm hearing is you make some changes, and I'm not, because I know how this works in engineering world. We make some changes, someone takes notes, they take their best shot at it, and you miss something. So is what's up here, which you just made changes to, and I'm surprised that there were questions about making changes, if you'd read it before, what's going to go to the council? Because I believe when the PUD went through the first time, there was questions about changes, and after it was all signed off, I asked the town council, I said, I can't believe you signed this off. He goes, we were told it was going to be changed. It didn't get changed. So that's my first question. The second one, because someone in social media land that complains about all this stuff, but obviously can't show up to the meetings, wanted to know if this is going to be recorded. The green lights are on. Is this going to be, I know it's not live because Drew's not here. This is going to be recorded. And as far as the summary, it's great that it's on the website. I spend far too much time on the town website. I wouldn't even know where to find this thing. So it's great. The agenda that went out had 2 line items. As far as I can tell, it was, this is what we're presenting, and this is what we had. There was nothing that said, what's the difference? I didn't even know the meeting was tonight because someone said, hey, there's a planning board public hearing. I was like, well, that's on a Wednesday. I didn't realize it was a special meeting. So a lot of people aren't even expecting it to be here. So if we can get a link to that, and when this gets to the council, if we could provide that information to the people that are going to show up to a public hearing, because if you see a summary and you say, I'm good with it, no reason to show up. If you see a summary and you say, I'm not good with that, maybe people would be here. But to say, well, it's on the website, well, that's great. But, I mean, that's like walking into an engineering design review meeting where I work and they say, well, we're here to review the design. Well, it's on a CAD machine down the hall. Okay, great. It's down the hall. What are you presenting?
Let Kelly answer the first question.
Yes.
So I think, so the first question was asking if the board had seen this prior to tonight, and if, where'd he go? If there were changes since that meeting. So at the February 11th planning board meeting, the board saw this draft that's on screen and that was advertised, and they moved this draft to tonight's public hearing with the understanding that any changes that they should make would need to occur tonight, and if they're significant or substantive, it would trigger an additional hearing. So yes, they saw it in advance of this evening's meeting. I did not make any changes to this document since that February 11th work session. This is recorded, it's just not live. And I'm missing one, right? Or is there, did I answer all the questions?
Yeah, let me, and just to piggyback on that, not only was it seen before, but we knew that members would not be available tonight, and they were asked to email you any changes that they might have, or questions that they might have, or whatever. At one of the last meetings, when I remember we had a full board, because I said to the chair, this would be a good time to announce that. If you know, read the draft, if you have any changes to make, email or whatever.
And there was discussion, and I think I asked this at least twice, as far as, should we have this at a regular meeting, or should we have this as its own? And the consensus I got was it should be a standalone meeting because of the significance of the item. So that's why it's quote-unquote a special meeting, because the board decided that that's how you wanted to proceed.
And it was properly noticed.
And it was properly noticed in the paper and in the newspaper and on the website.
Mr. Chair, can I just say something? I just want to state for the people that are here, you know this, but we're residents, and we know what people are saying on social media and everything else, and we are in line with most of the things I've seen online about what we want. The thing is, we have to work on things like this, which are the rules of some of these things, to make sure some of the things that may or may not have happened here or other towns doesn't happen or continue to happen. And so this is the way to do it. So if you're reading this and you go through this, and maybe you didn't get time to tonight, I do encourage you to go to town council and say specifically, what this means. And the internet is your friend. I don't know if anybody used AI, but if you put some of this in there and say, what does this mean in English? It'll literally tell you what it means, because I had to do that with some of it, sorry, because I'm still getting used to this stuff. But I think we're all on the same page. So, yeah, we definitely want to hear from you, but I just want you to make sure you understand that we get it. We understand the concerns, and that's kind of what we're trying to do here. And if other people have other ideas, we'd love to hear them.
Okay, next, name and address, please.
Dave Robbins, 532 Mammoth Road in Londonderry. Good evening. Go ahead.
Oh,
You're good.
yeah, okay, so before you start, sorry, Lieutenant Cruz has a police matter that he has to leave for. We'll
Yes.
still have a quorum with
Yes.
4 people, so we'll be okay.
1, 2, 3,
So if-
4, 5.
Yeah.
5 is a quorum, so we're all set.
Yeah, that. So
You forgot to count yourself.
would you please excuse Lieutenant Cruz so he could go for the police matter?
Certainly.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Sorry.
I think we'd notice
Yeah,
him
no worries.
when he left.
So, good
Okay.
evening, everyone. So I got my first read through this probably 2 hours ago, because I was not aware of the meeting and a neighbor had called.
Address, please.
Dave Robbins,
You already
532
gave
Mammoth
it.
Road.
Thank you.
So, my first read through it, I thought it was a significant improvement from the prior ordinance. I agree. I think it gives a lot more, it gives a better foothold for the town in dealing with developers. A couple of things I would recommend, having read through it. On page 4, under number 4, it says, if active and substantial development has not begun within 2 years of approval, within the time frame specified in the approval, the PUD approval shall expire and the underlying zoning shall control. I would highly recommend we define active and substantial. Is it 25% of monetary cost? Is it 25% of buildings? What it is? Because if I polled everyone here, everybody would have a different take on what active and substantial is.
Active and substantial is in the statutes.
Okay,
Of course, do they define anything? No.
No, so we're kind of, that's a word was,
but I've lived in regulations for 25 years, and if you don't define that, someone will walk through it.
It,
Yeah.
so I think, actually, I don't mean to interrupt him, I just want to catch what you're saying. So we discussed this exact point, and we referred, the board had discussed referring to our site plan regulations, which does define active and substantial development, but I think to your point, we should, maybe if that's what the board wants to do, refer to that section.
Yes.
Can we,
Which-
can we read that section real quick? Just so we all understand what that means.
because the different parts of the regulations have to work with each other,
Yeah.
not against each other.
And if you're gonna state it in one place. That way, if you change it, you only have to change it once, and you don't have to go looking for
Yeah,
it.
but
Which
if
is
we,
why we'll cite the,
if we cite it on this document,
Right.
then you know where to go, and that's the same thing that the RSA book does. When you read an RSA, there's people in this room that will back me up on this. When you read an RSA, you're looking at 7 different RSAs, and you only got one sentence so far. And you gotta flip through all the pages. Well, this refers to that, and that refers to this, and this refers to that, and then you go back and you have to take your notes and everything. So I think if we refer back to that definition, I think that's an excellent suggestion.
We have been working at it in our ordinances anyway. It makes life easier for us.
Yep.
Yeah.
I would also, part of the thing here, community benefit for a PUD. Again, kind of an abstract term. I've noticed some places in the draft, we've talked about sustainability, green space, walkability, things like that. If that's what we're calling community benefit, then we should refer to that section later in the document, say, tell the developer, hey, if you're going to, we want you to prove community benefit for us as stated as, these types of things, so they can articulate it in their presentation as well. And the only other thing that I read through that I kind of wish we might have considered a little bit more would have been, and this goes back to what Mr. DeFrancesco said, if a developer comes in with a PUD and they say, I'm doing mixed use, and all of a sudden they decide they're going to build all the residential first and then come later, what's the penalty what's the recourse for the town? I mean, we talked about one section there that discussed some recourse. Now, I don't think it's a monetary thing the town can impose because, $1 billion developer is not going to care about our $1,000. However, if we linked that to permitting and we didn't allow the next phase to continue until they satisfied, then I think that would have more impact on the developer. It would at least give them a second guess, a second thought of, yeah, I'm just not going to build that building, right? If there was some recourse the town had moving along the way. Because I think, those are business decisions that some of these people are making, and, we're not privy to them. So we need to have some sort of recourse, some sort of protection. We're anticipating X amount of tax dollars, and then all of a sudden, that's gone. So, anyway, that's it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
On that, Mr. Chair, if I may.
Yes.
On that second topic, John, isn't it something that we currently do? We hold back permits, or we hold back COs, or we hold back a bunch of stuff if the terms of the plan haven't been met? Any plan? No?
No, once all the conditions of the approval have been met.
Well, that's what I mean. If they're in the middle and they haven't met the conditions, go ahead. No?
So the way this is written, that particular section, the phasing essentially stating that they need to construct commercial, I almost flipped it again, commercial component prior to the res component. So that would be part of the PUD master plan regulatory document, that document would articulate that. And so if the developer came forward with a subsequent site plan following that master plan,
A residential one,
and they just strictly come forward
commercial's
with
not done yet.
residential, and commercial hasn't been done yet,
then we
then you
can
go
say,
back to their master plan document, and you say, no, you're not compliant with your approved master plan document. Come see us at a later time when you have a commercial component.
Mm-hmm.
That's what that provision allows you to do. It allows you to put a standard in their master plan document, their PUD master plan document, specific to that site, to hold them to, because keep in mind, the PUD master plan document is that regulatory document for the PUD that you would be discussing at that time.
and do you think that that language is strong enough to hold, to be able to hold a planning board into looking somebody in the face and saying, no,
I think if you
can't
refer
move
to the
on?
definition as it is in our site plan regs, it's strong enough because now you have a defined, you have a definition.
Good.
I think the board had discussion on it also, so,
So like Kelly's saying, so if somebody comes in for a conceptual discussion, again, we would have the PUD master plan, and that's typically those are the ordinance, that's the book that we look at to see, what stage are you at.
Yeah.
I know the board had concern about that and with the language, so.
So Can
So,
I just
so
say one more thing?
the word has already been set out, it's already in the room. We can't impose penalties. We've never
Let
been
me
able.
just clarify
Go ahead.
something though. So I think the question that was asked was, what if they don't do that? What if they just come forward with a residential, 100 units of residential and no commercial? The answer is that this board has the authority to say, no, we're not considering that right now because you didn't meet this regulation as part of your master plan. So the board could say no to what they're asking for. I'm not going to use the word deny because what I would suggest is that you say, no, your PUD master plans, and in fact, it would, at staff level, we would say that in advance anyways, but should they make it this far, both staff and the board would have a regulatory document to refer to that says, this isn't compliant with your PUD master plan, your regulatory document. And so if you go to the board with this, they're going to tell you no, because they have the authority to do that because you're not complying with this regulation. Because now you have a regulation to refer to tell them they're not compliant with.
Oh, great.
So that the penalty is they can't proceed.
Good, I'm satisfied. Thank you.
Okay, all set, Tony? Anyone else has input? Marge?
Marge Bedoy, 189 Litchfield Road. In the changes that you read, it mentioned having specifics for things like building height and buffers. My quick question is the Conservation Overlay District considered a buffer? Is the Conservation Overlay District considered a buffer?
So, can I answer her?
Yes, Kelly?
So it is, I think, again, the question you're getting at is when the board's considering a specific area and they start talking about alternatives or certain components of our zoning ordinance, meaning the zoning ordinance as a whole, where the conservation overlay buffer is, how that's regulated is in the zoning ordinance. So when the board is reviewing the proposed master plan document, that's when that conversation about if the applicant's proposing to not follow that conservation overlay buffer, that's when that decision-making point is. So I think the answer to your question is it still applies. This draft isn't saying that that won't apply, but at that stage, when there's a proposed plan in front of the board, is when that conversation happens. And at that time, the board could still say, you don't have to comply with the CO buffer, or no, you do have to still comply with the CO buffer. So it still gives the flexibility to the board.
But it's
to
gonna
say,
go to
"Hey,
conservation, right? It's gonna go to conservation anyway first.
It will, but I
But
think
there have been occasions when our wishes have been overlooked. And my point is that the purpose of the Conservation Overlay District is to protect the water. It's not to be cute bunnies and turtles. It's not for convenience. It's to protect our water, our drinking water. And for some reason, that it doesn't seem to get respected. So my thought is, instead of allowing, and it has been allowed more than once, for these developers to ignore that buffer, I think it should be more difficult to not respect that buffer, because in a PUD, you're typically providing a increased density. If you have increased density, you have increased impact. And my brain is saying, well, then maybe we should increase the buffer instead of give it up. And I think there just needs to be better protection for that conservation overlay district. And I don't know how to put that in there so that these developers don't get carte blanche to walk all over that.
Thank you. Tony?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Before you start, please. So just to, I agree 100% with what the Chair of the Conservation Commission said. But I want to clarify increased density. The purpose of increased density is to have the potential for more green space than would normally be allowed if you didn't have a PUD. So if you have 100 acres of land and there's 100 houses that can go on there, you're gonna have less green space with those 100 acres than you are with the other. Now, as far as the buffer conservation, I agree, that buffer has been trampled on, and I don't know what to do.
If the buffer was in the green space, they wouldn't be asking for an exception. It's when the buffer is near the density is when they want to get rid of it. So the problem is when the two
Yeah.
clash.
So
When
they-
the
yeah, they put-
density and the buffer clash,
Yeah.
the density loses,
They're
I
putting
mean, the
building
buffer
too- they're putting the
loses.
building too close, and they're asking for relief.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Could I?
Got it.
I just want to answer her question a little bit more. So I think, sorry. Where there's additional, it's not specific to the CO buffer, but it's specific to the question about where the board allows for modifications or waivers. And it is in here. Just, I didn't memorize it, sorry. So in this section, on page 3, it talks about what the formal application consists of. Again, we're talking about when we're getting to the submission of the master plan itself, the PUD master plan. It states that they can request modifications or waivers from zoning. So that's where Marge's question about the CO buffer usually comes up, where they'll request modification or a full waiver from that zoning requirement. But further down in section D, we added language that doesn't exist in the current ordinance that states justification for any modifications or waivers granted, including documentation of any substantial community benefit relied upon to approve the flexibility or density bonuses. But like I
If
say,
you're going
it's
to carry on
not
a conversation,
specific,
please take it outside, please.
it's not specific to the CO buffer, but it's specific to the process that the applicant would follow to ask to waive or modify that CO buffer requirement. That's,
Thank you. I have a comment, another comment.
Hey, Tony.
So, in general, what I've learned over my years, and you've heard this from me probably too many times, this is not my first rodeo. I've been on both sides of the desk, many, many places in the state of New Hampshire. And I will tell you, one of the things that I learned was the closer you try to get with verbiage to 100%, the farther away that you get from 100%. So from a municipal standpoint, and this is why up in Concord, the lawyers up there write the language so that it can be misinterpreted. In our situation, John's laughing at me, in our situation, and from the town of Londonderry, if we keep the language a little bit vague, for lack of a better phrase, if we leave it a little bit vague, we actually have more teeth that we can say, well, we interpret it this way, you interpret it that way, but it doesn't matter because we're the ones voting and you're not. And I'm pointing at an applicant, not at the citizens. I'm pointing at the applicant and the applicant's chair. Okay, does that make sense? And so you will never have a piece of legislation, you will never have an ordinance, you will never have a rule and a regulation that hits 100%. And from one person's opinion, I would rather have it be vague so that I have something I can grab onto when I don't like something, and I can vote yes or no depending on how I want to interpret it, rather than you could spend 50 years trying to make language perfect in an ordinance like this. So I just want to get that out there off my chest. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, Martha,
Sorry, Martha.
You're
you had a rest break there.
Okay, Martha Smith, 38 Shasta Drive. Thank you very much. The first thing I just want clarification on this, and I'm sorry that I don't understand, but the PUD ordinance, not ordinance, statute in the state is just like something to put in your toolbox for municipalities. It doesn't have to be. They're not saying every town has to have a PUD ordinance, are they? Do they say that? Does anybody know the answer to that?
No, yeah, Kelly, please.
So the state law, the statute that allows for a PUD ordinance or other flexible type ordinances
Yeah.
is the innovative land use statute, which essentially says a planning board can adopt more flexible provisions
Okay,
by way of a zoning ordinance.
Okay.
Should they choose to do that. That is again, like a key that unlocks the board's ability to do that.
to
And
have a
then-
PUD.
Right, PUD is one example of an innovative land use
Okay.
standard.
Okay. Then there was another question that was brought up tonight, and I think it was, what is the benefit to Londonderry of the PUD? Can you explain that to me, any of you?
It allows us more flexibility for, planning. I think that's one of the foremost things. But it also allows us to be able to create a town center, a village district. Because probably going back 20 years, we realized what our, all of our regulations, we couldn't build a good old New England town center anymore. So we had discussed, this goes back into the 97 master plan, where we talked about village concepts. And that was allowed, and it came from, so I would say 674:21, which allows creativity at the local level. So it allows, more creative use for land development. It also allows the developer to be innovative.
Yeah, and so, thank you, Mr. Chair. And so, Martha, as one person, I can't speak for the board, but as one person, for me, the PUD is about control. I want to be able to tell the developer what they can and cannot do. I want them, instead of just saying, you own 100 acres of land, follow our local ordinances and put whatever you want there, based on our local ordinances, right? So I would rather be able to control that, where the applicant instead comes in with a concise plan for that 100 acres, which, in my opinion, again, creates less density overall in the 100 acres and more green space in the 100 acres. In individual pockets of the PUD, there is increased density, right? In other parts, there's zero density. If 100 acres, you put 100 houses up there, or now, because the state of New Hampshire has said to the town of Londonderry and every other town and city, you can't say an acre anymore, an acre zoning. You can't say an acre and a half zoning anymore. It has to do with, do they have water and sewer? If they don't, then it's this. If they do, then it's that, and the hiss and whatever. And as a result, 100 acres, nowadays, you could probably get 200, 250 houses, maybe more. And I'm spitballing, right? So don't hold me to that. And a developer that owns 100 acres would be allowed to do that. No control over phasing. They could, if they had the resources, and some of these builders do, they could build 200 houses in a year, and we're stuck with it with all those kids in the schools, or we have the option of having a PUD. One
Okay.
person's opinion, bigger green space. We can make them phase in the project over years. We can detail what % of residential we want, along with a light commercial, medium commercial, little PD, big PD, industrial, whatever. But that's part of that negotiation process between the landowner, developer, the planning staff and engineer, the planning board, and the town council. So I don't know if that answered your question or not, but that's what it does for me. I would rather the town has control over that 100 acres and can work together with that developer instead of just saying, well, here's the book, here's the rules,
Right,
it's zoned AR1, put what you want there.
okay, I hear you on
And they
that.
can't do commercial because it's AR1, but it would be a bazillion houses now, especially now, the way the state has relaxed everything. They're telling us now how many spaces you can have for I'm sorry, I'm off topic. But anyway, that's where one person is at with a PUD.
Okay. Then with the, would it be appropriate within this to point a developer to the certain regulations that apply, or is that their duty? Is their duty that they have to know how their master plan hits all of our zoning ordinances and regulations?
Kelly?
They need to demonstrate how they comply with this PUD ordinance. They have to draft a PUD master plan document for their 100 acres that complies with this ordinance. And then that's where.
And then the people on this board have to be very familiar with all the other ordinances that come in and apply to that master plan, correct?
This ordinance is what applies to getting that master plan document to where it needs to be. And
Yeah.
so I think what you're getting at is through that master plan document development where, let's say, I'll keep using the CO buffer example. Let's say the applicant comes forward with a master plan and one of the items they want specifically waived from their particular 100 acres is the CO buffer.
Yep.
Well, it's on this board at that time of that discussion to say and have an understanding of what the CO buffer is, what the zoning ordinance states.
Yep.
And have a discussion and make a decision as to should that be waived for this 100 acres in this master plan specifically or not.
Okay.
So yes, generally speaking, the board should have an understanding, I think just anyways, of the zoning ordinance, site plan regs and subdivision regs. But I think when we're talking about developing that master plan document itself, the PUD master plan document, it's on the applicant initially to show they're compliant with that PUD ordinance.
Okay.
Does that answer you?
So the applicant is the one that basically designs the master plan of his development?
Yeah, in accordance with this ordinance we're talking about tonight.
Okay. And then they all get a chance to review it, and they'll hopefully pull in the ordinances, like if they make a mistake, like you just said, or they ask for a waiver like that, these people are educated enough that they're gonna say, no, we don't like that, you can't do that.
I gotta jump in.
And they're, okay.
Thank you. So Martha, I'm gonna jump in, because I'm gonna jump out of my skin here. So there's.
Tony's
there's-
on a roll.
There's way more steps. I don't want anybody to get to think there isn't. There's way, way more steps than what just happened just now, right? So let me back way up. First of all, the general public doesn't know what we have in a planning staff and an engineering department. You have no idea the work these people put in.
I do know.
So before, I'm talking to everybody. So before it even gets to here, there's been, I don't know, thousands and thousands of hours put in between the applicant, the engineer, the planning staff, and, you know, these two, I think, are related cousins, because they can both remember stuff and codes and whatever, just off the top of, you know, just boom, boom, boom. And so before, and don't forget, you're also gonna have, in between then, public hearings, where things are gonna change, things aren't gonna change, things are gonna stay the same, who's happy, who's not happy, who wants a 50-foot buffer, who wants a 65 buffer in this corner, and things change, right? And way back even before then, the applicant comes in and says, hey, you know what, Londonderry Planning Board? I just bought 100 acres of land over there, and I'm thinking of doing this on it. You know, we're gonna fly helicopters around there. What do you think? And then after we throw them out, then they come back again with another idea and say, okay, well, how about this instead, right? And so there's a myriad of steps, dozens, more than a dozen steps.
Okay.
Before anything happens at all.
Okay.
So, and don't forget, you have underlying zoning that fits in there too, right? So what do we do as volunteers? We're on this book, and then I got a briefcase back there that you see me carrying around all the time, because I'm not quick enough on the computer, so I have everything all spiral bound.
Okay,
All the
good.
rules, the regulations, the codes, all that stuff, I could just flip through it and find it in a nanosecond.
Okay.
So when it gets to us, I've been on this board 3 different times. It's always been 100%. Sometimes it's 105%, and we got to knock them down a little bit, you know? I look at a code and I go, well, you kind of overstepped your bounds a little bit that time, and, you know? So a lot happens. I didn't want it to be as simplistic as
No.
goes there and then comes here.
Okay, I appreciate that.
Way more.
Okay.
It's a process.
And I understand it's a process now. My last thing is that you, Tony, I believe, said that you like the vague language. And I think I understood what you were trying to say, but I also think that vague language leaves a big loophole for interpretation on both sides. And then we got lawsuits by a developer against the town saying, well, they said no, and I believe this. And
Right.
so that's why
And I
I'm not a
agree with you.
fan of
I agree with
vague
you
language.
100%. And so what I should have said is, in some circumstances, in some places. Not every place it should be vague, right? In certain places, it should be, hey, this is the RSA, this is it, right? But then, in other places, personally, I'd like to have a little wiggle room. Some of these people don't agree with me. Remember, there's 12 at
Yes,
a
I
full
understand.
meeting. And sometimes they don't agree with me. But me personally, because I've had it happen to me, and I've worked on it against a planning board, I've done both things, right? So I like from this side of the desk, I like a little bit of wiggle room, because I'll defend it in court. I'll stand up and defend my opinion all day long. Some of the people that know me know that, because I'm a pain in the neck. So
Yeah.
anyway, I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, I just, I've seen developers
Appreciate it.
in this town sort of get away with things and whatever, and
why-
that's,
Yes, and that's why we're doing this, to take some of that out and
yeah.
That's why
Put
the
some better-
volumes of
put
case
some
And,
better
law.
stuff.
and I don't want,
Everybody's
I don't
thinking-
want us to be paying for any more of their infrastructure either. I don't think that that's fair either, so,
I read that out, right? I read it, so we got a place now for that.
okay, good, good. Okay, I just want us to be as protected as possible.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, we try also. We're not
I know you
perfect.
do, and I know you work hard. Thank you very much.
Appreciate your time.
Anyone else? Ray wants to talk, so I'll let anyone talk before Ray, so whoever has not talked.
I read it. I read the whole thing twice. And thank you. It's a lot of work. I give you a lot of credit. And 12 of you can all get together and come across this. But I do have a couple of concerns, and some of them were answered, and I appreciate that. As far as the 8 things that you mentioned, Tony,
Yes.
somehow those need to be, I couldn't find them. I couldn't find them. You put in the little thing, PUD, I couldn't find it. But anyway, somehow that needs to be available with the draft so that people could, just to make it easier for people who aren't not working it continuously like you are. But I do have some concerns, and as I say, I did go through it, and there's vague terms that I get uncomfortable with. For example, measurable community benefit. What does that mean? Can we put some metrics around it or criteria around it? It's very, very subjective. So that's the type of vague thing that confuses me. When you talk about the definition and you have combined public amenities and it's combined with public infrastructure, I don't understand how the two of them fit together. So public amenities, so if you put a sidewalk in, does that give you credit for a public amenity? And remember, I was a nurse, I wasn't this, but that's just things that confuse me somewhat.
Yeah, that's an easy one, Mr. Chair, if I may. It says and.
Huh?
It says and.
And it adds
And.
on.
Both, they gotta do both, because it
What?
says and amenities.
It
Public
says,
amenities and infrastructure.
I thought it was / public infrastructure under the definition. Wait a minute, hang
I'll
on,
look at it.
wait. What page? Page 2? Public amenities, no, /
Okay,
public
sorry,
infrastructure.
my mistake.
improvement.
My
So
mistake,
that's
sorry.
confusing,
Yep,
okay?
Kind of like combining both together anyway.
Huh?
This / is like it can replace and.
yeah.
So
See, that's one of those ones, I read it and say they gotta do both.
Yeah, and I read it and said and/or,
Yep,
okay, so,
I did as well. I thought I read as and/or as well.
okay.
yeah.
So just, you're on page 2, right?
Yeah.
I'm just trying to keep track.
Yeah, okay. So that was confusing to me.
Yep, that's a good one.
As far as, on page 4, I don't understand. I know you read it and tried to explain it, but I still don't understand exactly, page 4, compliance and expiration,
Yeah,
that
number two.
number 2. So is that what is that saying? Can you put it in lay people's words? Does it have to be?
I think Kelly has the new language for it.
Yes.
Well done.
And
Well,
she
it's just a
she
thought.
hates it when I do that, but I know
But
she has
no,
it.
that's
Need a
fine.
minute to get
No,
to
no,
it.
that's fine. You don't have to give it to me. I'm just saying.
No, I want it for me.
You keep-
Okay.
I have a list of your points. Can you just, that way, let her go through it and then I can.
Okay, that's
Okay,
fine.
okay.
Yep,
So that was very confusing to me. On number 4 down there, if active substantial development has not begun in 2 years or within another time frame, why can't it just be 2 years? Why do you need another time frame?
Because it could be shorter. If
Could
we
be
decide-
shorter.
if we
It
decide to
says
phase it.
within 2 years. That can be
So
shorter.
2 years is the maximum or another time frame. So if we decide.
Which is worked out in the master plan.
Yeah,
as-
but I
So,
mean,
for
why
example-
would you give someone longer than 2 years?
so for example, if COVID hit and nobody could get anything, no one could get supplies or anything, and the developer came and said, we weren't able to work, the governor closed the roads, the mayor
know.
said you can't do this, that, or the other thing, so we're way behind schedule, and we need.
I understand what you're saying, but that's not what this says. This says, or within another time frame specified in the approval. In the approval. So you're approving a different time frame other than 2 years. Add, except for, unless extenuating COVID hits. But this is saying that 2 years, or you can make it longer. So the COVID, why would you make it longer? Why not just have it 2 years? That's plenty of time to get started, if you've spent 2 years going through this. So that's just a comment that I have.
So I would argue, having done a couple, that 2 years is not enough to have substantial development done in a 100-acre project.
Then make it 3 years,
But
and
it's-
make it
but
set in stone.
I don't want to set it any more than 2, because 2 is a metric that we already have in our documents and other places.
Okay.
In our regulations, and I would rather it be a bargaining point, or bargaining whatever, between,
yeah.
between the parties, right, both sides of the
Yeah.
table, for the developer to say, hey, we're doing this, we're doing that. You could have, for example, a development that has 2 million square feet of commercial industrial and 7 houses. And they're saying, it's gonna take us more than, it takes a long time for 2 million square feet.
To get started.
2 years
It's
is
just
not
to
enough.
get started.
No, substantial.
And that's another thing.
Substantial development.
That's another, what does that mean?
That's defined in number 3.
Yeah, so, yeah.
Okay, anyway,
3
moving
has
on. These
four-
are just
3 has
things that
4
I came
bullet
through.
points on it that describes that.
Okay, on page 5, I think that was answered, but I had questions about may request the developer to hold a community input session. Page 3, I'm sorry. Why not make the developer, this is, the community has been crying about development and conservation, crying about it. And I believe they feel they don't get input until after a lot of work has been done. Whereas if you would require them to hold a community input session for feedback from residents and abutters prior to the application, they would feel, why, you're shaking your head, no, why? It says you may do it, why can't you shall require? Why not shall require? It's for the, I live here and you're gonna put the PUD there. Why can't they come and
If
say?
they're not an applicant, they're nobody.
Huh?
If they're not if
It
they're not
says-
an applicant, then they're a
Well,
nobody.
that's what this says. This says the applicant shall request the applicant to hold a community input session for feedback from residents and abutters prior to the application. Why can't that be a shall? Let people have input before they feel it's too late, because that's what's happening a lot of times, is people feel that I didn't get to give any input. So maybe they won't make pink houses, they'll make blue houses, because that's what the abutters said. Do you follow what I'm saying?
I think I
Okay.
have it up.
And then, page 4, I said that was very confusing, and I told you about the 2 years, how I felt about the 2 years. Okay. I don't understand the whole benefits to the developer. I don't understand that whole, but that's just me. I won't even go into it. Okay, location on page 6. I had a question about that. So basically, PUDs may be proposed in any zoning district. So I can put a PUD in a flat residential district
If you have 100 acres.
if I have 100 acres. So you can do it in any zoning district. So if I live in a residential, if I live in a residential district and there's a bunch of land over next to me, even though it's residential, they can put a PUD in there with commercial and industrial and all that in there?
But that's where the plan comes in.
If it's 100 contiguous acres.
All right, they have 100 acres over there.
Yeah, but that's where the plan comes in. That's where the planning staff and the town engineering department gets together, and in the application and the pre-application, they say, yeah, that's not gonna fly, that's gotta go over there. Put houses over here. So, that's part of, remember, it's an agreement
I understand.
between the parties.
But if
So-
you say no, I can come back and say, well, you said in your thing that may be proposed in any zoning districts.
Yeah, there's plenty, true, but, yes, but they also have to meet all the other requirements, and we have to say yes. And I can tell you, there's been people that have come before us.
But isn't that
And-
subjective? Doesn't that open you to a lawsuit?
No.
Anyway, okay,
No,
okay.
absolutely not. No.
Then I have the planning board discretion on page 7, okay? It's very, very vague. Okay, so it says the planning board may approve shared parking, reduced ratios, and other flexible arrangements where supported by parking analysis, provided such waivers. Okay, who's doing the parking analysis? Who's doing these analysis? Who's doing the traffic analysis? Who's doing the parking analysis? So basically, the law now says, so I have an acre of land, or I'm in a PUD and I have an acre, and I can put 6 units there, we'll go with the 6. 6 units can be an apartment building with 6 units in it, okay? Or it can be 6 apartment buildings. It can be 6 apartment buildings, correct? I looked up the
Six
definition
units?
of units, and I looked up all those definitions, and of what they meant.
It's a housing unit,
It's right, but
a
if you,
housing unit.
but it doesn't say that in this. It doesn't say housing unit.
I
It's-
think what you're asking is the type of dwelling, the type of.
Yeah, it just says dwelling. It doesn't say
Right, because
housing unit.
once you get to the actual PUD master plan for that specific area is when you'll see the proposal from the applicant about, do they want to put multifamily buildings here or single-family buildings here?
I think having it like that, I think one of the reasons why people are pretty shocked about one of the developments, areas that's going up on Pillsbury is because are shocked by the fact that there's 250 units plus another 44 units going in because it wasn't defined and there's nothing that they could do. It wasn't defined in the original master thing. But anyway, building height, otherwise authorized by the planning board. So on an acre of land, I can have 6 units, and if the planning board says it's okay, I can make that 70 feet high. Correct?
They can ask for that.
Okay,
The applicant can ask for that.
okay.
Oh, but we can do that in any part of the ordinance on any piece of land. That's not just in a PUD. That mirrors the regulation that we currently have.
Okay. Anyway, so I guess some of the things that concern me are that the vagueness of wording, like the benefit of the community and residential things, and who pays for the traffic? Who pays for the infrastructure? Who pays for the plumbing? Who pays for the water? Who pays for all of that?
The applicant.
But it doesn't say that in here. It doesn't say in here. It says the PUD must have, I'm going to say town water and town sewer, but it doesn't say in here at the expense of the applicant. It doesn't say that in here. Is
So
that?
if they need to extend a line, that cost is on them.
But it doesn't say that. Doesn't say that. So, I mean, I don't expect an answer, but it doesn't say that. The waivers, could you put a cap on the waivers? Is there a way to put a cap on the waivers? And the compliance, who's monitoring what goes on? Who's monitoring? You do all the monitoring, Mr. Chartier? Are you the, are you the monitor of,
No.
No, so there's different, can I answer? I'm sorry. I'm
well,
just
I
trying
only
to,
went to him because you pointed to him.
so there's different levels of what you're asking, right? So the first is you have a PUD master plan that's approved, right?
Right?
That's the regulatory document for 100 acres. You have an applicant come forward with a
I
site plan
understand.
related to that.
I'm talking about once it gets going, who's monitoring it.
So that, in part, this board, when they're reviewing that site plan, right,
Okay,
needs to ensure it's compliant with their PUD master plan,
right?
gets through that process.
I'm still thinking further ahead.
Okay, gets through that process, then you're talking about construction.
Yeah, who's monitoring the construction?
So there's construction-related inspections that are handled through a third party, our engineering consultant, as well as our engineering and DPW department.
Okay,
And then further, if there's an issue, like if there's a code issue, everything's built and there's a code enforcement issue essentially, we have a complaint process and
Okay.
code enforcement.
that's an after the fact, though, the complaint process on the zoning. So, I really, the other thing is the wetlands and stuff, and that's the other thing, conservation. And is there a reason why you can't make the conservation buffer in this, that it has to comply so that they can't try to change conservation buffers? Because that's another big cry from the community as far as they want their conservation land. They don't want it ruined. They don't want things to happen to it. And I think Marge brought up why can't it be right in here so it's not a negotiable point with people? And then other towns put specific monitoring on theirs. For example, other towns put that you can't go 50 feet. You can't go more. That's 50 feet buffer it has to be. And Goffstown has some very specific things in their ordinances. And I just wondered why,
Is that in their PUD ordinance?
yes, both Goffstown and Derry have specific parameters that are not negotiable. And it's for the protection of things like wetlands and that type of thing. So they have very specific ones, and I just wondered if you might consider looking at some of those. And then I guess the final thing is, what is the land use fee schedule? Where is that? Is there a reference to that? Because it's not in here. It just, on page 14, it just mentions the land use.
I'm gonna answer that.
Yes.
So we have a land use fee schedule that's for site plan subdivision, any planning board application, zoning board application, which would apply to any subsequent site plans that come forward after the
Okay.
PUD master plan. But I think one of the discussion points I wanted clarification on this evening was a specific fee for the PUD master plan itself.
Okay,
So I don't
Okay.
have the answer to your question about
okay.
that, because I think it's,
So
they're
that's
gonna
something they
discuss
need.
it.
So the impact analysis, the traffic impact and all those, trip generation, is that part of their master plan when they put it together? I mean, is that negotiable? Do we say developers, can you negotiate with developers whether they have to have an impact study? I mean, anyway, these are just questions I have. And then I guess my final question is it states that it's in it that we have I forget the term that's used, a group that is monitoring all of this and keeping track of it, but we don't have a specific development group. We have conglomerate of people, the planning board,
The department,
department.
I think it says community development, not planning and economic development.
Beg your pardon?
I think you mean planning and economic development
No,
being
I
the,
can't find what it is, but,
That's who the body would be.
that's what I'm saying.
That would be the committee.
okay,
That
all
would be
right.
the
Well, thank
department.
you. I think you did a great job. I mean, it's certainly much more detailed, and it should be much more detailed than the original one. I just think it could be, you know, have some things tightened up. Just take a look at the one in Derry and the one in Goffstown, because they did it specifically to protect things that people wanted protected from. And so it didn't, they can't come back to you and say, well, you let that PUD do this, so why aren't you letting my PUD doing that? So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
A couple things to, can I talk about a couple things you talked about?
Okay, Tony's got the floor first.
Yeah, so, sorry, so I just wanted to, a couple of things came up, and I know you misstated it, but I want to correct it.
Okay.
You talked about, you said conservation land, and I'm very confident that you meant conservation buffer. Because no one's taking away conservation land.
No, I know, that's,
Yeah, I knew that, I wanted to clear that up, because I know what you meant, but you said conservation land, but I know that you didn't mean that. So I just wanted to clear that up. So, and the other thing I want to say is that you need to understand that, and I know it's a really complicated process.
I understand that.
And that.
And I appreciate
that
all you've done, it's just.
in general, the underlying zoning has setbacks also. And so, while it may not specifically be here, this could be like a 3,000-page document, or it could be something that's manageable for everybody involved. And engineering, planning takes care of making sure the regulations are being followed, okay? So you talk about what happens after the fact. Londonderry's very lucky that we have the people that we have, because we don't have sewage running down the streets in some of these developments, because engineering took care of that on the front end and made sure that everything was correct before they even put a shovel in the ground. And so, you know, that's something that you need to understand, and I don't mean this in a negative way, but to figure out and understand that everything dovetails together and works together to upwell into something like this, which is called a PUD. Okay, so you got state regulations, you got federal regulations, you got local regulations, you got town engineer, you got planning staff, and all of that stuff works together to make a cohesive plan work.
I understand that, and I agree with that 100%.
Yeah.
But I'll give you.
It was a rhetorical question. It wasn't.
This is not a debate.
It was a
so-
rhetorical
It's okay.
statement.
I just wanted to give you, Derry has a 120-foot buffer for conservation
Yeah.
in their PUD, it's stated in their PUD.
Yeah, so those, the fact of the way that we do it is working. We've tightened up what we considered at the time to be some of the loopholes in the PUD. Where we go from here with the current public input remains to be seen, because we haven't done anything yet. All we're doing is talking about it, and here we are. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't know if there's anyone else in public
Okay,
comment.
that gentleman back there, I think, wanted to talk.
I just had a quick question based on what you said.
Oh, okay. Name and address, please.
Leo Lee, 70 High Range Road. So she said that the developer pays for all the infrastructure, like the sewers and all that stuff. And is that true or not? Well, she did.
I said if they have to,
I didn't say they did, I
Oh,
asked.
I'm sorry.
I
She,
I think
let's,
it's going to
one
me.
person at a time talk, please.
you want me to? answer?
Kelly?
yeah,
I said that if there's not an existing water or sewer line
yeah,
within the area that they need it,
yeah.
the responsibility is on them to pay that cost.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I heard. So my question is, like, for Woodmont, I read somewhere that,
We are talking about any specifics.
well, I know, I'm
Woodmont's
just
off the
giving you an
discussion.
example. On
That's
Woodmont, I
not
read that
not
it
an
was
example. that-
$8 million that we're on the hook for to help fund their
We're
project.
talking about Woodmont.
Okay, fine. Well, we're not gonna talk about the next project too, because
Okay.
the next one that comes up might be the same issue. We as a town, I mean, myself included, doesn't want to be paying all this extra money for developers' infrastructure, even though they said that they're gonna pay for it initially.
We're going to take that as hearsay.
Okay, it's on the capital, it's on the town's
Yeah,
capital.
so the problem, sir,
expenses.
and I apologize, and again, I get where you're coming from, but because the owner of that property hasn't been notified that we would be talking about that project in this quasi-judicial format, we are not allowed to talk about that, nor allowed talk about that, because everything, if they're not here to defend themselves or agree or disagree, we got a legal issue. And so that's part of the problem that we wrestle with as a board, because we're citizens too, you know, we're just volunteers. But we get slapped all the time, and I've learned, you know, over the years, I don't like getting slapped. And on Thursday night, we have a 91A meeting with the attorney. All the sitting board members are supposed to be there to help us not get slapped. And one of the things that we keep hearing time and time again, year after year after year, you can't talk about a project if they haven't been noticed, because it's not fair to the people that own the property. And so I apologize, but those are the constraints legally that we have to work under.
All parties have to be present that are being discussed. What, discuss someone that's not there, you can't do that.
Okay, well, thanks for
You
clearing that.
listen-
And I
it's
would be
a
glad-
Liability.
I would be
Yeah.
glad anytime to talk with you offline
Yeah.
about that, but when I'm sitting behind here, I
Oh,
can't
I
talk
understand.
about it.
Well, thank you for clarifying, because I didn't understand. He just cut me off and said, you can't talk about that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
thank you.
arrived late before he made the announcement, so you didn't,
Oh, okay.
you didn't know.
But that's why I'm here.
Okay, okay. So
Tony
I
knows.
just want some kind of verbiage in the HUD
Yeah.
in future for the developer to pay for the whole infrastructure, and we're not on the hook for it later.
Yeah, makes perfect sense.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Name and address, please.
My name is Gregory Carson, 19 Tocono.
Welcome.
Present, yes. Glad to be back after such a long absence, and going to make the selectmen pay for reappointing me to the zoning board by punishing everybody else, so sharing the wealth. I will, I have a quick statement, and I will submit my written, 6-page double-sided written comments to the board and email a copy of it later, just some
Thank you
more
for that.
detail. I reviewed the PUD ordinance as proposed, and I just want to focus on 5 targeted areas, which I think, at least from my perspective, just could use some clarity and maybe, I guess, defining things so that they're a little more defensible. So when issues come up, the board doesn't get slapped, any of the boards don't get slapped. The first one that I had some comments on was the issue of community benefits. And I'm going to read this because I wrote it now. The ordinance correctly makes this the foundation for granting flexibility and additional density, but it remains broadly defined. As written, it leaves so much room for inconsistent interpretation from one project to the next. I'm concerned about those inconsistencies being, used at a later date in a different project to come back and haunt the town. A modest framework around the terms community benefit with benchmarks, a requirement to identify the primary benefits supporting the approval would reduce or reduce the arbitrary application and make decisions easier to defend at a later date. The second is the density bonus structure. The ordinance introduces a well-intentioned incentive system, particularly for affordable housing and mixed-use development. The question is calibration. If the thresholds are too high relative to the market conditions, applicants simply won't use the bonus, and if they're too low, the town risks granting additional density without receiving the mutual meaningful public benefit. Clarifying how those bonuses are applied and ensuring that they are economically realistic will determine whether the provision works in practice. The third issue is the 2-year expiration period. For a 100-acre or larger PUD, 2 years seems to be a very tight window for, just to complete the permitting, financing, and design, let alone substantial construction. I understand from previous experiences why people are concerned about having a tighter time frame, but 2 years may be too tight. Maybe 4 years is too long, so something in between. The risk of that viable projects either do not move forward or repeatedly return for extensions is an issue that we all have had in the past. A longer default period for tying vesting to phase milestones would be better reflect how a large-scale development actually occurs. I've had a lot of experience with this kind of issue at my time as being the director at HUD, where we had regulatory issues, funding issues that have caused great delays, and we end up coming back, or we had to end up going back to boards or cities for extensions, and caused a lot of confusion and angst. The fourth is the phasing language. The ordinance is clearly trying to ensure a balanced development, particularly between residential and commercial components, which is a good objective. However, the current language is not quite clear enough that I'm concerned about it actually being enforceable as written. This technical drafting issue is a technical drafting issue, but an important one, and should be clarified concisely so that the board and the applicants can both equally understand exactly what's required of them and when. And finally, the question about how much discretion is being placed with the planning board. A critique here coming, so put your helmets on. Planning boards appropriately act on both administrative and quasi-judicial roles, just like the zoning board that I'm on. But the zoning ordinances themselves are legislative in nature. They establish clear policy and standards and do not leave core policy decisions to be determined on a case-by-case basis. Tightening these ordinance standards in key areas will provide flexibility while ensuring decisions remain grounded within policy set by the town rather than shifting that role to the board itself over time. In summary, I think it's a great, I don't know if this is the first draft or fifth draft, but it's a thoughtful update of the ordinance, which really is needed. And with a few targeted adjustments, particularly on the areas I discussed, I think it's a great step forward from where we have been over the last few years, and which has caused some angst for both the town, the citizens, and everybody involved.
Thank you very much.
That's it.
Yep, thank you.
Appreciate your thoughts.
Kelly, if we were to change the
Thank
2 year, sorry.
Please, yeah, thank you.
Sorry.
If we were to change the 2 year to 3 year, would that be a substantial change? Because this is twice now, the length of this has come
So
up.
can I just clarify where we're exactly talking about?
Sure.
That it's within the active and substantial,
Yeah.
right? So I think you do have that degree of flexibility without having to renotice and have a hearing again, because you have the second line that talks about or within another time frame.
Yeah.
So you're not changing.
But you're not changing because we've already got that extended
Yeah.
flexibility. Yeah.
That's,
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Well, why would we want to extend it for the builder? Wouldn't we want them to build within 2 years? I mean, sure, if they come back with a hardship and all that, but I'm just saying, why would we want longer by default? I'm just
I was
curious.
just curious because I was mulling over just what Mr. Carson had just said, and this had came up in some prior people speaking on it. So I was just thinking about it. Is it even a possibility? Because it's like, if it's going to be substantial change, I don't even want to really think about it because I think it's good the way it is. But I just want to know if there was even an option while I pondered it over. So I don't know. Actually, what Mr. Carson said was, there are some things where you run into regulatory guidelines and other things that make it so you cannot get through it in 2 years. And for a large 100-acre tract of land, it is possible that is too short a time frame for, and 4 years is too long. And I thought 3 years. I was thinking over that between 2 and
But they
3.
can come back and get an extension.
They can, and that's possible. But that's also, it's part of the process. And if we know most of these are going to go over, so that's what I was
Right,
thinking about in my
okay,
head. I don't know if most of them are
see
going to go
what you
over,
mean from
but
experience.
yeah. So I'm just processing this on the fly.
Okay.
Yeah, and I
Tony
think,
has some info
thank
on
you, and to that point, it can be done in 2 years. Substantial can be done in 2 years on 100 acres. It depends on the complexity of what they're doing, what kind of land it is, where is it, how is it, what's the breakup, what's the balance between commercial and residential, what kind of residential is it gonna be? So there's so many variables that could happen in there, but there are developers in New Hampshire that are several, I'm gonna say many, that could in 2 years build out 100 acres. Yeah, it can be done. And I don't know if John's nodding or
Well,
wants to say something.
there may be some infrastructure though too that they're responsible for, or that they're relying on another utility to construct, that they might be at their mercy too.
Yeah. I've seen things get in the way of this too, so that's where I was.
Oh,
I haven't come to
100%,
conclusion.
because so for the general public on these sites, the streets and the piping under the street and the wiring and all that other kind of stuff is owned by the PUD,
Yeah.
right? The sewage, the water, all that is all owned. If they get potholes, that's them, they gotta fix it. If it snows, they gotta plow it, okay? But the fact is that the focus of what it is they're trying to do is based on assumptions. So they're coming into engineering, into planning and development with a piece of paper that looks like this. And they're saying, on this piece of paper, I'm gonna dig down and I'm gonna put this pipe here and that there, and I'm gonna put this here and I'm gonna put that there, and we're gonna be able to get that done in 2 years. And then they go and they start digging and they find out that they got that special kind of granite that you can't even tink it out. It won't tink out, it's gotta be blown out. That takes proportionally X more time or whatever. And they don't know that when they first come in because they might not have done test borings yet. They don't know until they get there. And so then they come back to us and they're gonna say, geez, we thought that putting the water pipes in was gonna be a 1-year project. We're 6 months in and we're only 20% done because of the type of granite that we hit, that we didn't know was gonna be there. And that's where, in fairness, I think that we should have some flexibility to say, yep, that's understandable, we'll give you another X,
Yeah.
right? So, that's where we're at.
There was another point in there about making sure that we test these conditions for economic viability. And Kelly, I think you've done that to some degree, but I think that would be good to explain.
Are you, sorry.
Oh,
One more time.
so when we got to the conditions, Greg had just talked about have these been tested for economic viability? Do we know, like, if it's something where it's too permissive and it's not really gonna get us where we want, and all of a sudden we have everybody taking advantage of it, or if it's
Yeah.
too stringent and,
Yeah. I think he was talking about the benefit table.
yeah.
Yeah, so that came from not only the APA kind of template that the American Planning Association puts out, but also some of our surrounding communities, and then this board made some additional adjustments to that, so I don't know if that answers your
No, it
question,
does.
but
I
that's
just-
the basis for it. It wasn't just,
Yeah, I wanted to get
Off
that
top
out
of my
there so
head.
we know we didn't just
yeah,
pull that out of
right,
nowhere.
it's based on reference and resource from accredited sources, not just me.
Yeah.
Okay, is there anyone else who has not already talked? Seeing none, I know Ray was first, so I'll let Ray go, and then you're second. And then we'll,
Ray Breslin, 3 Gary Drive. Thank you for allowing me to speak again. But look, I don't know about all this technicality stuff. You guys do, and thankfully you do. But I do have a question, and that is, and I'm not being specific to any particular one, PUD. Is it a legal binding contract between the town of Londonderry and the developer?
that would be the development agreement.
Is it a legally binding document?
Legally binding document.
So the town has signed off on this document, which they have changed, they can, excuse me? No, go ahead.
I think your question is this PUD ordinance a
No.
Okay.
The question is
master plan?
a master plan.
Yeah.
A master plan, yes, a master plan for some developer.
So once that's approved, it is a legally binding document in the sense of that's the document that they have to legally adhere to.
Well, without them being able to change anything?
They can come, anyone at any point can put forward an amendment to an
So-
approved document.
So,
cannot
PUD
change it in the
master plan.
field. They can't change it in the field.
no.
They can't be building a house and say, you know what, we're gonna go 3 stories instead. They have to come back here.
Okay, so,
Talking about a development agreement, that's a different.
no, I'm talking
Conversation.
about a master plan for a PUD.
Yep.
So once it has been approved by the town council,
Master plan document is approved by this board.
and the town council's got nothing to say about it? That's interesting. But anyway, because look, I think of the town master plan
Yep.
is a document that really does have no power.
And it's
But
approved by this
apparently,
board.
pardon?
That document's approved by this board.
I know.
I'm just demonstrating the
No,
consistency.
fine. But a master plan by a developer does have all kinds of power. Correct?
Subjective, but sure.
Well, it's a legally binding contract that has been agreed upon by the town.
Talk to them, because I'm not running the meeting.
Pardon? I should be talking to him?
Talk to the chair, Ray.
Oh, that's you.
Yes,
Go ahead. I had a question.
yes. What's
You
the
referred it
question?
to her.
Yeah, I gave it to Kelly to answer. Kelly responded. You have it now.
I'm trying to follow.
I'm not sure it's been answered
Yeah, we
completely.
do cross-talking, which is not really the decorum of a,
Oh, you referred me to her, right? Or you referred her to speak on that?
yes.
Okay, so now I'm back talking to you.
Okay, what do you got, Ray?
Okay, so this legally binding contract that the town of Londonderry signed off, wait a minute, the planning board did, holds the town accountable to say that whatever was agreed upon in the master plan, it's written in gold and that you have to follow it. You have to agree with what they said. You agree to that?
Yep, that everything has to go according to that master plan.
And it can be revised. When they come back, they can revise it, which oftentimes they do.
Both parties have to make the agreement, but they can, whoever master plan it is, can come back and request an amendment.
Yeah, which,
Amendment goes through the public hearing process and everything, so.
yeah. Okay. Well, I'm just trying to understand. I mean, I'm not trying to find fault with what you're doing. You're trying to do your job. That's well.
You're working at it, Ray.
What?
You're doing okay.
Oh, good. I'm glad I am.
You know what the problem is, Ray? If you learn too much, then they sit you up here. So be careful how much you learn.
That ain't happening.
Happened to
That
me
ain't,
3
you know,
times so far.
I got more common sense than that.
Tony gets educated every time, more and more, so.
Yeah. But once again, look, I mean, I'm just speaking as a citizen, okay? Think. And some things are brought up about setbacks, okay? Very, very good questions.
I think we've covered that
Okay,
substantially.
okay. But here's the concern that I have. A lot of things have changed, and are really continuing to change on a really rapidly happening basis, okay? And we're trying to pay attention and trying to keep up. And one of the concerns is water and stormwater runoff, which the town is dealing with, which the engineering department is dealing with, okay? And we have certain situations where we're going to have to take measures to deal with culverts that are going to have to be replaced.
You're talking about culverts in,
In the PUD?
in the
In some PUDs. We're not
Well, we're
specific,
talking about
we're not talking about any specific,
PUD? We're
no.
just talking about PUDs, so.
PUDs.
Let's not get off on a tangent. 'cause
No,
other
no,
people might wanna sit
PUDs,
here.
PUDs, because PUDs are very big, 100 acres.
Or
And
more.
so, pardon?
Or more. 100 acres or more.
Or more. Okay, well, we have serious issues we need to deal with. And these really big projects have impacts that we, the town, needs to be concerned with. And we really need to think about,
Ray,
What?
you're repeating yourself also, so, I think you can just speak once, and I think we know what you mean and everything.
okay,
You're just
so,
chewing up time.
okay, okay, we'll end this right here.
Let's be to the point, Ray. Let's not
The
beat
point?
around the bush, you know?
Okay, one more question. Are you folks going to consider anything as far as changing this draft, or are you just going to vote on it and say it's good?
Board has to discuss that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ray. And I just want to check, make sure no other people want to speak.
Well, Ray, also to answer your question,
Ray?
we've already been talking about some of the feedback up here that's been presented, so we have been considering what's been talked about here.
Thank you.
So, yeah.
Deb Paul, 118 Hardy Road. Couple things came up in my head while I was listening to all this stuff. In the document, and I don't remember if I saw it in there or not, but then somebody brought up something about development agreements. Now, are we gonna set that every PUD shall have a development agreement? Or are we gonna kind of float it? Are there gonna be parameters around it? So I'd like to know the answer to that, to make sure it's addressed in here. That's kind of very important. And then my next thought was kind of something that Tony was talking about infrastructure and the roads and who takes care of it. So you have this 100-acre or plus PUD, and now it gets subdivided and has different, like, owners and users of the property. How will that be clarified as to, so if I have a piece of property, and I can't explain it, but just picture the map, right? And I've got like this, and then somebody else has like this. Now, the section of the roads, like, is it, so my section of the road, I decide not to plow, and the other guy is I mean, how does that all play into it, and where does it play into in here of the responsibilities if the property is broken up into different owners or whatever? I guess that's my concern. I didn't think about it until you said it, so it's all your fault. Okay, so it's the board's fault. How's that? So I don't know if you guys have answers for these questions.
Yeah, it's really part of the master planning. That's how that is done.
So the document says if there's more than one owner of the 100 acres, then you have a development agreement. If there's one owner, you don't have to have a development agreement. Kelly, tell me if I'm wrong, please.
You're right.
So I got one right tonight. So the second part of your question was who's gonna be in control? And it's just like when you form an LLC, you don't own it, the LLC does. And it's the same thing. The PUD is the people who sign it are responsible for whatever happens in there.
Okay.
Am I right?
Yep.
Thank you. But that, you were shaking your head no, though. What?
No, I got to speak to the chair. I want to get yelled at again. So, Mr. Chair, if the PUD is a property development agreement, and because they only have one owner, they don't have to have it. But what if later on down the road, 5 years, 6 years from now, they now would then have 3 or 4 different owners because they decided to cut off pieces of it, and now we have no agreement. And the way I had interpreted our ordinance on property management is that it says whether you have one party or if there are multiple parties, meaning that if you have it, you have a property management agreement, and if you break it off to this person, this person, this person, you also have to oblige to the main property agreement. So in my mind, every single PUD should have one, a property management agreement, because you never know when they're gonna subdivide, and then it's too late to create one. Did that make any sense to anybody besides me?
Yeah. Yeah. No, you did a good job of redefining what I thought you asked the first time, because you're talking after the fact.
Correct.
So the PUD is already formed, it's already a done deal, they're already starting to build on it, and now all of a sudden there's different owners. What happens? Who's the PR? They call it a PRP, responsible party, or PRP, previous responsible party. So I'll defer to staff on that.
So the way it's written right now, in the draft, it states that following approval, parcels may be subdivided or transferred, provided the overall PUD remains consistent with the approved master plan. So there's no provision that states you can require a development agreement after the fact. I don't really see how you would put one in place after the fact, after you have an approved master plan, an approved overall PUD master plan, because you've already gone through that process. So I don't know if I answered the question or not, but that's.
Yeah, and so let me, if you don't mind, I'm gonna try and help a little bit. So the road goes through the middle, the private road goes through the middle of the PUD. When it was one owner, the one owner plowed the road. Now there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and the owner only owns this part, so he only plows the road up to this spot. What happens to the rest of the road? How does that work?
So at the onset of the approval, if it was one owner, it should specify that that person's responsible for that. And then my understanding is how it works in some instances is that that original owner passes that an agreement or that cost of plowing in this example onto whoever's buying that piece of land.
And so the owner, it ends up kind of like being condominiumized, except it's land. And the person who buys that parcel, several things can happen. One, it can be in land lease, right, for 99 years, which is what most Dunkin' Donuts have. And the owner builds the building and owns the brick and mortar, but doesn't own the land. And they sign a 1 year, or $1 a year lease for 100 years, whatever it is. And part of that is the agreement. It's the agreement between the parties, because it's a private site, that they work with themselves to figure out, okay, I'm buying this, and I'm gonna have customers coming in here, and I gotta make sure that that's plowed. And I'm using a stupid example, but this is the one that makes sense to me right now. And so this person who just bought in has an agreement with whoever the person was that built that road the first time or whatever, to make sure that their section of the road is plowed, because it gets condominiumized.
Because the important piece is that it's all private, so at no point is the town gonna be responsible for plowing that road, because it's a private road, just in this example.
So
Yeah.
I've done this before. So
Yes,
what
you have.
happens is when you have a piece of property and it's owned like a PUD, if you split it, as soon as you split it, what happens is these things are handled and you have to be put on the deed. So typically you need an easement to be able to go through to your property. And typically there's an agreement of where one plows to and the other one plows to. And it usually gets pretty stringent on how frequently after storms or whatever. You can get real crazy with it. But typically it goes on the deed when you split it, because those are the things that you have to figure out at
And
that time.
it's a private document between the parties that, if they're smart, gets recorded on the deed.
Right, exactly.
On the deed,
That's
if they're smart.
Typically what it is, it's on the deed, correct.
Yeah, I wish you were with me up in the Lakes region the years I was up there.
That's
Would
where I
have
run into it.
would have curled your hair. But anyway, so I don't know if that answers your question, but it's a private site. It is what it is, and business people
You have
all have
answered my
attorneys.
question. Excuse me, Mr. Chair, I just want to say you have answered my question. So we talked about fair and equitable and things like that. So you're making one person have to have a agreement, and then if it's a group, they don't have to. So I feel that like, and then if they subdivide, then they don't have to. It seems like you should try to treat it all the same in my head. You either have this agreement or you don't. And I don't think it should go case by case. I think it should be, if you're going to do it for one, then you should do it for all and be fair and equal on how you proceed with this. That's just my opinion, and I'm not sure exactly how that goes.
Yeah, I don't either, because if you have one person that's the owner's gonna have a development agreement with himself.
Right, but then he subdivides shortly thereafter, within a year, just say, okay? Very quickly.
Yeah.
So now he took advantage of not having that, and he doesn't have to have that with the town, that agreement, nor does any of the other people have to have it with the town.
The only
So
reason-
you're treating,
Yeah, but you're assuming that the development agreement is to protect the town, and a little bit it is.
that was my understanding of them the only one I
Yeah,
ever
and-
read.
but then, once it becomes private property, a private site, how do you go back?
I don't know. I mean, why even bother have it then if you're going to pick and kind of,
You're not picking and choosing. If
Well-
you have multiple owners, you have to have an agreement, because it makes sense.
well, within the
because-
agreements, I'm talking about
but if
the
you have
agreement to
one-
the
If you have
town.
one person,
You still have an agreement with the town.
The
It's not the
development-
private agreements for plowing the roads. I'm not talking about that. That I understand, Mr. Chair. That's a private agreement. But when a developer comes in and we the town, have an
Has a
agreement
development
with that one person, and then that one person subdivides, that agreement goes with the land. So all those other subdividers have that agreement with us, the town. Now, a new one comes in, and that new one has multiple owners, and we go, we're not doing an agreement with the town. And so, they're doing it with themselves. And that I understand. That makes all the sense in the world, what you were talking about with the plowing and the details of the plowing. But I'm talking about, why the difference? Because it can all change to be the same. It could be multiple and end up at one. And now you still don't have an agreement with you and him in the town. Do you see what I'm trying to say? Like,
but you do have.
you have your master
The-
plan,
the
but you
master
don't
plan
have your...
itself is
When it comes to
There's a
kind of like an
holding.
I think
agreement.
you have
Oh, I have a lawyer
on
here.
this.
I'm not your lawyer, and I'm not their
No, you understand the law. I do not.
Greg is going to render an opinion.
So think of it as, and I'll say to the chairman, if people think of it as one of the overlay districts.
Please re-announce yourself.
Oh, I'm
Sorry.
Greg Carson,
Thank you.
19 Tokenell Drive. If you think of it in this perspective, I think it makes it a little bit easier. It's like a zoning ordinance overlay, okay? So once and I'll use the example of one owner comes in, does the PUD, does all the, goes through all the process or whatever. When that person subdivides the land, all of the requirements of the PUD that have been negotiated with the town in the process are continuous with the land, as if they got a zoning variance. The land, the agreement, the PUD overlay continues with the land, no matter whether you have 1 or 100 subdivisions in there. Everybody that's subdivided into a smaller portion still is required to adhere to all of the requirements of the PUD plan. You can't not plow the road for health safety issues, even if the town's not responsible for it. I mean, technically, if there was an issue, the town could go in and plow and then just send you a bill if it's a safety issue. You have to still comply with all of the other ordinances, all the other building codes, everything else. It's just continuous with the land, unless the town then, even if the town repealed the PUD ordinance, it would still continue with the land.
Yeah, but that's not what Debbie's asking.
That's not what I'm talking about. We have an agreement, what do you call it? Oh my God, my brain just froze.
Development agreement.
Development agreement, and that's what I'm talking about. I understand.
Development agreement, if there isn't a development agreement, it's just the basic raw.
Right, but why, my question, to Mr. Chair, was, why do we have it for one person and not another? Shouldn't it be a standardized thing? Either you have a development agreement with every PUD, or you do not. And to
Development
me,
agreement is a responsibility of the town council. That's where
What?
the agreement is made. Town council has the authority.
Okay, I understand they have the authority, but if it's not, it's either part of this or it is not part of this, so the council knows that it needs to put in a development agreement or not prior to. Otherwise, there's no trigger to go to the council, because PUDs don't go to the council.
Planning department does it. The planning
now
department
you're
triggers,
saying-
planning department triggers the
No, what you're,
town council.
Town
I'm
council
totally
has to sign
confused.
off on it.
what
Totally.
she's asking about, can I just?
Yes, Kelly.
give
Please,
this a
thank
try?
you.
So there's no, it doesn't explicitly state all planned unit developments need a development agreement. I think you're saying it should say that.
One or the other. I mean,
So that's.
it's just
I'm trying
something to
simplify
consider.
this
that's
as
what
much as
this is
possible.
about, right?
I mean, to
This
me-
is
to me, it doesn't-
considering-
I don't care one way or the other, because it makes no sense to have a one-person development agreement. But it doesn't protect the town any more or less in between or whatever, so I really don't care,
So the
one way or the
comment,
other.
just, I want to make sure.
I just wanted to be
the comment
succinct.
is-
A question for the attorney.
can you make sure I'm summarizing this right?
Yes.
The comment is, she thinks it should say, all PUDs are subject to a development agreement. Yeah? That's not what it says right now in the draft, so that's what you all can decide if you want to push through to the council or not. But was that too short of a way of explaining that, Deb? Or-
No, I just was wanting to treat, we were talking about, I mean, Mr. D brought it up to treat everybody fair, and that's what I'm trying to do here, is look at this document and say, well, this isn't necessarily treating everybody who's applying for it the same. That's all.
Mr. Chair?
Can I leave, or?
No, no.
Ryan.
I would just say to that, I mean, I wouldn't want to make that decision here. I do think it would, I understand the benefit, and I actually like it, but it
too.
really more is with town council, and thank God you're on the town council, so if you can bring that up when it gets there, because I believe they can add things to it as well, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, the council can amend this.
Right.
Well-
Get to
Just
them.
more along the lines of it's kind of not our well, it kind of is, but it kind of not, because those agreements go through the town council.
I agree with you, and that's why I brought it up, because
Yeah.
I thought it was appropriate, because I'm bringing it up basically to get input from you all, eventually, I guess, and say whether you're for it or against it, or that, and that's done in private, I understand, but
It doesn't have to be, I mean, Tony, would that hurt? We
It's
did
not
that?
gonna hurt, but I don't think it makes anything better, and I
think-
just,
What
but
do-
it doesn't,
What's the
it
advantage?
doesn't matter to me one way or the other.
okay.
Um,
thought I'd bring it up.
Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing, and the board will do its deliberations and decisions whether to continue with this and send it to the town council at a later date, or send everything to the town council.
Why does it feel like midnight?
Yeah, it does feel late, but if I can, Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I think there's a lot of things that were said tonight that I think was valuable, and I know there were two documents that when one of the gentlemen read it out, but there was another document that we didn't really see. And I think there's a lot of data there that, that needs to be reviewed, and that's just my opinion.
That's,
I hate to keep pushing this thing all down and down and down, but, with the amount of feedback that we got and the write-ins, I don't know if it makes sense to vote on it
We would
tonight.
have to have another hearing, I think.
I would agree.
Oh, you have to go.
I think we need to take this back to the planning board for a workshop session, because there's certainly some good input, and I think collectively it would have a substantial effect. And then set it up, and then have another hearing on this, and then send it to the town council.
What do you think, Tony?
I mean, yeah, this stuff here that we could change, there's some stuff that I don't think is necessary. I think there's some stuff that is important, but it's already somewhere else. So it doesn't have to be here. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, I think this is one of those where we've had several public hearings on this. We've got to this point. I think if we push it out any further, there'll be cries of kicking the can down the road. You know, that this isn't fully baked. It goes to the council. It has opportunity to have amendment and revision there. They can look at these comments and that we're.
I was just gonna say, are these comments gonna go to town council?
So can I just add some? So my intention is to, if you move this to council, would be to take the documents that Mr. Carson and Deb provided and make sure that I give those to the full council as well, so they have time to digest it. And then the purpose of their first reading would be to have that dialogue, similar to a work session at the planning board. That's what I envision that first reading to look like. And they'll give the feedback as they see fit at that time. I'm sure they'll have other feedback as well, and go from there. That's how I envision it going, if you move it to the council, but that's just me.
I think either way, it would get accomplished.
Right, no, I just wanna make sure though, that those comments and things are
I
included
prefer
from
having
town
another
council's
meeting
decision.
on it, because I couldn't even see on my screen here the corrections.
No, it's because it's not on there.
It isn't on there.
There's a,
It's right here.
It's,
It's on the website. So yeah, I
says
mean, I
PUD
understand.
changes.
That was me, you can ignore that, I'll delete that, sorry.
Yeah, I understand what Ann is saying. I would rather give it to, I'm thinking a little more, I would rather give it to town council, have the public hearings on their end. I mean, my experience with this kind of stuff is, there's been very few times that a planning board has sent something to town council where 100% of the language has stayed the same. That for the most part, changes have been made on the town council level, which is fine and acceptable and okay to do and part of the process.
the other possibility.
And I don't have a problem with that.
I just want to interrupt quickly, is that the town council has sent it back to the planning board with their recommendations of what to do.
Sometimes that happens as well. Either way, it wouldn't hurt us to have the town council be on record with whatever you want to call it, a first draft or this draft or whatever. Even if it bounces back, at least they're a part of the process. Excuse me, they're a part of the process. So, I don't have a problem moving it forward, with the documentation that Kelly has from the input at today's meeting, and seeing what happens. And if they have questions, I would be willing to volunteer to go to the, town council meeting, just to be there in case there's specific questions that they wanna ask, of the planning board. And, we can take it from there. So, either way.
Kelly?
I just want to clarify a couple of things. So, if this moves to council, just to reiterate, the board's providing a recommendation to move this draft ordinance to the council for their action, whatever that action is. What I send to the council, based on what I heard so far tonight, the board provided consensus that about section 524H, which is the active the phasing language, adjusting that to change the word from commercial to residential.
Mm-hmm.
That's the consensus formal change I heard.
Yes.
And then, so that's the change I will make to the document that's on the screen, the draft document. So when it's posted as draft document, that's what everyone's gonna see. And then the council will also get the meeting minutes, the two pieces of written comment that I have. And obviously however you vote tonight, should you move it to them. I just want to clarify that because one of the things one of you said was the council will receive or something like, I'll put together all the feedback, that doesn't equate to me amending this draft.
Right.
It equates to, you gave a consensus on one section, I'll amend that because it's not significant enough, thank you. But I'm trying to make this as clear as possible, but it's not coming out quite right.
That's the only amendment, but all the other feedback
Yeah,
goes with
the-
it, but
the-
the feedback doesn't get incorporated.
Right, that's not to say that the council won't get the feedback, it's just saying, I'm trying to make very clear that we're not proposing further amendments to the draft at this time. It sounds like the board is saying, if you move it to the council, that the council can make that decision at the time. Is that,
That is,
got it?
that's correct.
Not saying that.
So, that's where we're at, you decide what you wanna do.
So I will take a motion.
Just so, for the sake of argument, I'll make a motion that we move this to the town council with the change that we agreed to, and can I say documentation from public comment?
Sure.
So that's my motion.
I have a motion by Tony. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Ryan. Okay, discussion?
I understand where, what Tony's getting at and everybody's getting at, is this needs to be done. And this needs to be done years ago. So, let's get it moving. Let's make sure that everybody's comments are in there. I will probably attend the town council as well, just because I kind of want to see what's going to happen to it. But as long as they have all the data, I have full faith in the town council and the fact that the town council was here tonight. They could voice her opinion too, and we have another town councilor here. I mean, so I'm okay, and they're aware of the discussions that happened tonight, so I'm perfectly comfortable.
If for no other reason, it provides for them to be more a part of the process than they have been in the past because of how the system works.
Right.
Whether that's good or bad is up to interpretation, but as one person, I would like them to be more involved in something that's this big, because when something this big comes to them and they get beat over the head, at least they were part of it, part of the reason why they're getting beat over the head, instead of the planning board sending it and making them get beat over the head. You see what I'm saying? So
Oh, yeah, I get it.
I'd like,
We
I'd
can
like
blame
the
them.
give and take.
So
If it gets,
they've
if
got
it gets
some
bounced
freedom
back,
to do what they see as workable, because their perspective is different from ours. We're looking at it as a purely planning, type
and
of
if it
function.
bounces back, that's not gonna hurt my feelings,
Right.
because they're part of the process. They're part of this whole thing, because it affects the whole town. This is a big deal, right? So,
Yep.
that's the reason why, and
The town council originally wanted it very quickly, but, I mean, we've been very deliberate in our process of going through it.
this is not a very quickly thing.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's just the way it is, between the legality of it and all the other dovetailing problems, for lack of a better term.
Quickly tends to get you bad results. You go
100%.
fast, you mess up.
100%.
Right.
And I'd rather, yeah.
He's-
I mean, I feel good about this document, what was done. Some good suggestions. Some of them don't make sense because they make sense on its own, but when you talk about how these things work, it doesn't work. Common sense sometimes doesn't work when it comes to a municipality. And I learned that early on in my life. And while some of these comments are valid and important, it's just not gonna work. Or it's already there. And they don't know it because trying to understand how a municipality works is so darn complicated that they don't understand that this is just one thing. There's a whole briefcase full of documents this big that this refers to, right? So the comment, great idea, we're already doing that. You know, so anyway, Ann, I don't know if you had anything to say about, I mean, I know what you,
I'd
I know what you
prefer
wanna
having
do.
it,
I know what
the
you wanna
planning
do.
board.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, so, I think we're gonna take a
Just
vote.
Yep, we'll go for a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Nay. I know you.
One nay.
Okay, one nay, chair votes affirmative, so it's 4-1-0 vote. Motion carries.
401.
Motion to adjourn by Tony. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Sean. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.
Okay, don't-